25 років. І ми більше не питаємо себе, ким хочемо стати, коли виростемо. Більше не чекаємо листа з Гогвартсу, бо точно знаємо, що за кожним як великим, так і малим зрушенням в Україні стоїть не магія, а робота людей. Наших людей. І ваших. Сьогодні понад 70 наших співробітників піклуються про 900 ваших компаній, а ваші компанії – про робочі місця для 2 мільйонів українців. Ми з вами вже виросли. Виросли у 27 адвокаційних комітетів, які вирішують понад 70% звернень, в освітні заходи, що збирають по 15 тисяч учасників, у нетворкінг, який вже допоміг залучити інвестиції з 60 країн, в інфлюенсерів, на яких щодня посилаються українські та міжнародні ЗМІ. Ми виросли. Та виросли з чого? Ми завжди мріяли сміливо, але починали з крихітного. З 2 людей у маленькому офісі в Києві та величезного бажання вкорінити європейські цінності в українському бізнесі. Почали вдвох. Проте йшли десятки років разом із вами, з перемогами, але й не без болючих уроків. Пройшли 2 революції та евакуювали офіс з Донецька. Диджиталізували майже всі процеси під час пандемії та ні на день не припиняли роботу з початку повномасштабного вторгнення. Тому що створювати цивілізовані умови роботи завжди на часі. Створювати робочі місця завжди на часі. Будувати державу як партнера для людей, як партнера для бізнесу завжди на часі. Робити життя людей кращим було на часі 25 років тому і на часі зараз. Що готують нам наступні 25 років? Чи принесуть більше перемог, більше інвестицій, ідей і проєктів, більше людей, які поділяють наші цінності та продовжують змінювати країну? Ми не знаємо, але нам дуже кортить дізнатися. Тож давайте триматися разом і разом дивитися вперед.
Вітаю всіх на
My greetings to you all on our 25th annual meetings of the European Business Association. You know, it is so pleasant for me to see you all, and I would like to recall that this is the Statute EBA meetings at which we will proclaim the results of the governance elections of our association. And all in all, this is the 3rd meetings, unfortunately, that we do within the conditions of the full-fledged war, but we do it in Kyiv. That is why I would like to jump on this opportunity and to thank the UAF, our boys and girls who protect our country and who allow us to meet and to continue to meet in Kyiv.
За 25 років багато чого
For the
помінялося.
last 25 years, many things changed, and truth be told, the times are really different and complex. We indeed grew up, we changed, but it seems to me that what remained unchanged are the love and respect of our participants, of our partners, of our many stakeholders. And for this, I'm so much grateful to you all. And during these years, I would like to say it this way that perhaps we have preserved the main themes that have always been with us for the last 25 years, and I'm sure that they will be stepping step by step to us for the next 25 years. And these are the main key 5 elements, 5 pillars. And let me talk and let me address to each of them on a separate note. The first one are our members, are our participants. These are business representatives. These are exactly the fact for what those people for who we work. We create conditions for you in terms as association. We are moving forward for you. And I'd like to express my words of gratitude to you because business is going through a very complex times right now. And during these 25 years, a lot of things happened. But I think that even the more complex and adverse times are going right now. And I have to tell it this way that how good you are managing all this, because truth be told, nobody was expecting that business will be withholding this crazy resistance. That is why thankful to you all, to our friendly and cool members of the association, and for you supporting the EBA during many years in a row. But at the very beginning of the association, back in 1999, I clearly remember that there were companies who trusted more, and this was the hardest to make the first, gesture of support for such an organization. And I clearly remember how back in 1999 and 2002, 2000, we were sitting together with Orion Pharma, Aventis Pharma, Anderson back then, that transmitted into EY, Bill Nagel, and a lot of others. And we didn't have as much of them as now. And I was thinking, how can we make it such a way for a business, for European rules to be in the business? That's why this all remained with us. You continue to move forward with us. The second pillar that we work with are our potential members of EBA. And my message to you, my friends, will be the following. Do not stand aside. Please, we need support. Join the ranks of EBA. Obviously, 924 companies that right now are the members of EBA already do a huge amount of work together, but we need additional assets and we need additional forces. That is why these are our intents and willingness for the businesses. The next block, the next pillar, is the government. Truth be told, you are as the flight control point. The idea is that you work for the whole country, and you're the ones who make decisions for the whole country that impact millions of lives. You do not sleep, you work a lot. And truth be told, you receive lots of criticism, and this criticism is coming a lot from us. And I'd like to express huge words of gratitude for the idea that you understand to the fullest extent how important it is to keep up the communication. That you understand that even in the point when we have alternative and opposite opinions, you still understand the importance of meeting each other, sitting behind one table, and trying to find out the solutions that will suit our interests. And I applaud to those people who are not afraid to come to business and to look for those solutions together. That is why, dear authorities and government, I love you. I look at some representatives of the managing bodies, and despite some kind of opposite opinions, I want you to know we always think about you, and we always try to be that thing you can rely on. And since I understand that not everyone is looking eye to eye with me, but please know, EBA always is of a good opinion of you. The next pillar are the e-foundation, and this is the mass media. So we as EBA, we feel that you are a huge support to us. You're always with us. You always have been helping us to reinforce our vote when it seems to us that nobody hears us. And I know that for you it is really also hard to work. But I'm so much hoping that the freedom of speech will remain in our country, not as a good phraseologism, but as another powerful tool to move and to push our country forward. The next pillar are international partners. Truth be told, to talk much about our cooperation, there is no need to, because everyone in business understands the value of this very cooperation, since by now we clearly understand in business that due to the support of our international partners, we have the macroeconomical and microfinancial stability. That is why thank you so much for you being with us. And thank you so much that perhaps after the elections of the president of USA, we see and we think that perhaps something might change. But I'm hoping that the wisdom will take the upper hand, and the wisdom will remain with you as with us too. And together we'll be moving forward towards victory as a country that deserves for the sovereignty, and as a country that deserves for the peace and security. And the final block that, it seems like for me as a fifth element, this is our key key, key resource. These are the heads of our boards, the heads of the committees, and the team of our association that I am proud to be a leader of. And what I would like to emphasize is, truth be told, with this board, we have been working hand in hand. We have monthly meetings, but I feel their support every day. And it seems to me that us as a board, we became a big family. Perhaps not super big, but still big, because we all know that we always can count on each other. When it comes to the heads of different committees, there's a separate thing to all of them, because among those businesses that you do every day, you still find time to propose any new other new ideas in order to do the brainstormings, in order to think about how one can improve the life in this country. Thank you so much for your being able to do that. And the last element in this trio are the EBA team. And it seems to me that EBA team is exactly that factor that is as a clear and pure energy that moves forward our beloved association. That is why I would like to thank you, my team, for the fact that you are with us all these years. With many of you, we are together for more than 15 years. Today, I'm a part of the member of the team that today a team members who is celebrating her birthday. This is Julia Krasnova. She is the leader of the regional department of EBA. I'd like to thank to our team for the fact for them to be committed to this business, commit to the idea to build in Ukraine a truly European state. What comes next, nobody knows. For the next 25 years, I hope will be successful for our state as both for EBA. But I'd like to express my hopes that this next jubileum anniversary, EBA can celebrate and to recall how the path of Ukraine to European future happened and how we became the members of EU and what kind of obstacles we crossed on this path. But nevertheless, we will be paying attention to the fact that indeed we feel so much good together in a one big European family. That is why, on that positive note, I'd like to think again. We will start. So we're not gonna celebrate because we cannot afford it to celebrate when there is war in this country. That is why we will not have any live music today because this is not in time. But what we definitely shouldn't skip through is the fact that we're standing hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder for the 25 years in a row. The fact that we move as one big team, and I hope that it's gonna be like that for the next years ahead. Thank you all, and truth be told, today is gonna be a pretty interesting day because we have at least 15 or 17 speakers. So if you need to go for some kind of technical pause, please step aside and come back. We were so much hoping to do this day very special for you. Thank you.
І на сцену
And
запрошую
would like now to give the floor to the president of the European Business Association, to Mr. Tiberian Dima. The floor is yours.
"25 years ago, a small team with a burning desire to instill European values into Ukrainian business started EBA. And one of these small teams is here. Today, 25 years later, EBA is the most prominent business association in Ukraine. It's 70 team members take fantastic and good care about the 900 members that employ more than 2 million people in Ukraine. What a legendary achievement. Congratulations to all of you. And now we might ask ourselves how this legendary achievement was possible. What was behind this success? There are three things we should know and remember. The first thing is, of course, the people. EBA is the place of best people, the best team, the best management, the best members, and the best board. The second thing, EBA always stood firm to its mission, which is to make Ukraine a better place for business. And the third thing, EBA is the most powerful voice of the business community. Regularly, our members can count on EBA to voice their concerns to the highest possible level. With these three things in mind, people, our mission, and our power, let us today acknowledge and celebrate 25 years of legendary achievement. And looking into the future, let us continue working together so that EBA continues to be a beacon of European business values and principles, and a place where great things are happening. Thank you, EBA members. Thank you, EBA team. Thank you very much, Anna, for your passion and commitment. Thank you, the board of directors, and I wish you a very good event today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Дякую, 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 дякую. Thank you so much. Now I will switch again to Ukrainian. Дуже рада вітати насправді
I'm so much
Ольгу
happy to
Стефанішину,
greet
віце-прем'єрку
Olga
з питань
Stefanishina,
європейської
Vice President Minister
інтеграції.
on European
І
Integration.
вона відносно нещодавно отримала
And
ще довісочок такий.
relatively
Міністерка
not that long
юстиції.
ago, she
Я запрошую
also
пане Ольгу
received the
на
position of the
сцену.
Ministry of Justice, and I'd like to ask her to come to the stage.
Дякую, що приєдналися. Ольга,
for
насправді
joining us.
це
So, Olga,
велика відповідальність, великий шматок
let's be
діяльності,
told a big
який зараз
responsibility, a big
своєї
amount of
відповідальності.
activities that
Щодо
you are covering right
європейської
now.
інтеграції,
And when it comes to European integration, everyone is looking for this very statement that has to do with the following, that we have to access EU. So this kind of negotiations without negotiation. Does it seem to you, do we have any kind of leverage or strings to pull in order to enter and access EU, but not to lose European interests and national interests? Thank you, Anna. And I hope that we will be also talking about making it spreading, because somebody is going high, somebody is going to the side. Because it would be indeed very logical solution. And I think that we will all clearly get it what it was dictated by. But primarily, today, when we meet, the negotiations of the first cluster of our future membership are coming to the final stage. And as a matter of fact, in January 2025, we will open the 6 or 7 first negotiational chapters. It will be done in waves. There will be 6 waves of opening and finalizing the negotiations. And this will be a very big in terms of the scale of work. More than 5,000 of civil servants and business representatives and NGOs have been engaged into it. And there is only a small part of what's called backbone responsibilities. And as a matter of fact, even right now when we talk, we are finalizing the negotiations about the whole soul of our European integration. But what's the most important thing will start on the 19th of November, because we will be talking business, primarily about internal market. And that's exactly where this negotiation without negotiations will start, the ones that you have mentioned. And for me, that's a very important path, all in all for our country, because this is a path of a discipline, this is a path of mental transformation inside of the state management. And I clearly get it that you are so much proud that you have almost 2 million workers, but that's indeed too low in terms of numbers. But yeah, let us develop it. Let's make it higher. And I hope that this all will lead to the fact that it will be 22 million of Ukrainians who will be there in European Business Association. And I got a little bit frustrated when I heard this number, almost 2 million. So it's not the numbers we are looking for. So these very transformations will lead to be told to the fact that your indicators will be growing as much as the indicators of our work. But the idea is that this process is systematic. And this story about constant Ukrainian crying out what happened and what we can do with that, the system itself works differently. On each stage of negotiations, we have possibilities to speak up, to talk about our position, to identify the framework of implementation of our responsibilities, to engage additional funds. These are not constrained. But the question is that, okay, if this work is not systematic, it means that the negotiation process and membership of this kind of romantic dream and the will of 90% of Ukrainians can really turn into a huge problem. And this constant controversy between national interests and this very European market is there. That is why we have established this negotiation process in a very systematic way. Already on the 19th of November, Ukraine will announce the first positions about the labor market, about the service market. And I urge all the representatives of business community and those companies that have a will to represent their positions to be involved into this process. And at the same time, I welcome On behalf, jumping on this opportunity of the 25th anniversary of EBA, we included them into all negotiation groups for the future accession. That is why definitely your voice will officially be heard in this negotiation process. Thank you so much. When it comes to EU accession, when we made our research of the members of European Business Association, the lowest mark received the court branch of power. How you and your team are planning to move towards this line of work for us to demonstrate the progress? Obviously, it has to do with our European inspirations, right? Well, that's important, but one of the lowest marks was received by this year by the sphere of agriculture, because indeed, this destabilization that has to do with the constant uncertainty about trade liberalization and with the fact that the ministry right now received a new minister of agrarian policy picks up. And indeed, this year was not bad for the sphere itself, but in order to integrate this all into agricultural sphere, this was what we call what's called negatively positive. So all in all, it was negative, and we have the mark 1 in this regards. That's for you to clever understand how the market is being assessed right now. You mean the mark 1 done by European Committee, right? But I told you that what our members who sit over here in Ukraine, they look at what they use and say the court's approaches, they don't love it, they don't like it. Yes, literally yesterday, I think that the president will not take any offense from me. But yesterday we also talked about courts and the reforms in terms of the high rights. So these are the demands that were put in front of me when I was the head of the Ministry of Justice to turn this page. And indeed, I pay so much time now to the preparation of the roadmap in this very sphere that will come to an end in this year. It's both our responsibilities for the future as well as the vision that we will have to present. I will have to present it to all the stakeholders. You will all be able to get familiarized with it. Even now, you can put forward your proposals. So the whole project of roadmap and process is open. But definitely, as a Ministry of Justice, I have a very precise political task to turn this page. And also, I had some talks with the colleagues from European institutions, as well as from colleagues with USA. We have a line of emotionally not solved questions in this sphere that we will be able to cover by the end of this year. And the next year, it will be the year of strategic transformations. And I think that we will make them together. And finally, while understanding that a system of anti-corruption bodies in Ukraine is up and running, and while having the possibility to dig deeper in our legislation, that's one of the best legislation and regulations in Europe and even perhaps outside of European continent. So the idea is in very efficient measures. Unfortunately, in those questions that have to do with the justice, there is no easy solutions because that's about justice. It has to. This is a whole complex of competencies and good qualities, good personal qualities. But you will be able to hear this plan already by the end of the year. And I think that together we will be able to implement it. I will be thankful for your proposals, for your visions. Especially, I will make a pause at the fact that me as a Ministry of Justice, I have those responsibilities now that directly impact everything what you do in a private or any other or business life. So it doesn't matter what kind of past life you will find, you will meet the Ministry of Justice. Yeah, to get married, to get divorced, yeah, to register property, political parties, NGO. Yeah, here we go. We will be happy to thank you all. Obviously, the feedback from the market in terms of the activity of the Ministry of Justice, I also received myself. And we'll be thankful for your signals if you will.
But look, when it gets to courts, right, you're practicing lawyer, you really know a lot about this. So how do you feel? To have a plan is a good thing. It's also part of the work, but nevertheless, we have a lot of plans. Nevertheless, we still maybe are too slow in some things. And how do you feel? How long do we need in order for the plan that we will have created by the end of the year becomes reality if everyone is happy with it? Well, there's no magic wand. You cannot have some reform of courts and after which we wake up one morning and all the courts are fair. This is thousands and thousands of judges, and I believe that we should respect, in a way, this judicial system that we created, that is foreseen by the law. It's not that judicial system that was there 10 or 15 years ago. So we went through this path. That's a long path. So we're now working not only on the plan, but on the steps that will be ensuring justice. For example, this balance in judicial practice. In different courts, you can get different rulings that are contradictory one to another. Also, the practice of higher court, it's different. And so there is a list of those procedural steps that can be filling in those gaps. And we're working on this. And what measures we will be taking, this is a different step. Or, for example, how long should criminal and proceeding last? We know that some competitions, there's some competition on the market when they speculate with the law or law enforcement when it gets to criminal proceeding. And this is not even the question towards the law enforcement. This is just practice in the market that is not very doesn't show a lot of integrity, and this is the problem for it has been a problem for many years, dozens of years, where there's no access to proper justice, and this is also something to work on, so everyone understands the law the same. So in your position in the Ministry of Justice, you already touched on this, that it's going to be alliance parts in actually this block of the rule of the law and everything we're meeting in our life. But anyway, what tasks would you set for yourself, the ones you want to do on this position of the Ministry of Justice? Because you will leave at some point. This is not for forever. So you will be able to say that I've done this. Well, first week after I woke up as the Ministry of Justice, it was Sunday. I was thinking about it was a rejection in one of my accounts, one of the state banks, and I had a message that you had a penalty, your account is blocked. If you want to, you can go to the Ministry of Justice. And of course, this particular one didn't take a lot of time for me, this executive proceeding, and I went through this myself, and I see a big potential. Ministry of Justice, it's one of the biggest functional ministries in the government, because on the legislative level, the Ministry of Justice has the authority to break down their function between private and state sector. This is realization of the property and execution of court decisions and notary work and so on. And I think that my task is to multiply all of those functions and maybe create a model for other ministries where somewhere maybe they are afraid to cooperate with private sector. Maybe they don't have that experience in filling up the budget because a lot of opportunities are there, and maybe create a better sense of justice for citizens as much as possible by the resources of the Ministry of Justice and my political resources. This will be done. Well, if we can help with anything or provide any proposals, any ideas, please, friends, don't hesitate to do that. Maybe give some signals so we can send it to Miss Olga, and along with her team, they can process this. But coming back to European integration, because you talked about agriculture and that it's quite acute to this issue, and we see that European Union functions a little bit differently, so to say, when it gets to financing agricultural sector. So how do you feel? Can we become part of European Union even if European Union will not change the system within the system, the model of agricultural managing? Well, here we need to break it down to two things. First, domestic market. This is rules and standards. Without even bringing our legislation into compliance with European rules, talking about any subsidies or distribution. This is not to be discussed because we're not going to be competitive, hence having a fully open market for companies from EU. Again, we should not forget that we are getting rid of this terms of foreign companies, foreign legal persons, legal entities when we talk with EU. When we talk about the territory of European Union now, foreign are everyone who is behind that border, Mediterranean border, so to say. So first of all, this is the regulation is an element of competitiveness of our business, our companies. The second thing is this discussion is still awaiting us as for subsidies about financial support, and we should not forget that along with the support of Ukraine as a country, as a candidate, and also as a country, a future member of EU, we have a huge financial support that is connected to war recovery and financial sustainability, stability of the country, and this is a huge volume of financing that if you put it all together, it is more, it exceed the budget of all candidate countries by several times, or any structural funds that exist for country members from EU. So this is a different reality. Here we are really, we are especially careful and meticulously watching the frozen Russian assets. And here we're talking not only about financial assets, but all the frozen assets within the framework of sanction policy. And I believe that here we have something to look into in order to support Ukrainian economy by broadening the mechanisms of sanctioning through collection of those assets, recovery of those assets, the frozen assets. So it's a very narrow discussion about the context of agricultural, and this policy, it's going to be broader access to resources, but in EU as in life, the strong ones are respected, and now the countries that want us to succeed, they point out that Ukraine has access to those countries where EU is not even present, and those markets should not be lost. And some countries later, from the new year, maybe this information will be more public, some countries, they even advise us to build stronger our capacity on the markets of third countries, in order for this to be a very good, strong point, negotiation point of our position when we're going to be talking about the access to EU market and certain transitional periods and sovereign interest of European Union to broaden their presence in the world. And unfortunately, it happened due to the war, but Ukraine can ensure that. And luckily for negotiation process, food security, the world food security also depends on Ukraine. And now everyone knows this in the world. It's a big element for us for negotiation. So if I got you right, not European Union will be removing the subsidies, but us, if we become part of European Union, we will have access to subsidies. Yes, yes. Okay, then when it gets to structural funds, when will we when will we have access to those funds? To be honest, now in the Ministry of Infrastructure, we only have a few people that are working on this. Once again, we're coming to the question of the system and access to structural funds. Normally, it's 2-3 years of working on one project. So if each of so or less big companies will prioritize one project, you need to understand that 2-3 years, it's a project cycle for attracting funds. And it's normally big money, and it's normally financing, lifelong financing of the business, and it has to be systematic work. And we can try this pilot, by the way, why not? And what do we do as government? So far, we are announcing that we need money in the beginning of each round of negotiation. This is our responsibility. This is our duty each time to say whether we are taking in the liability, what are the terms, and whether we can implement it without financing those efforts. And we are announcing this, and this is about the areas that I talked about already. And just yesterday, we had a preliminary screening started in transport sector. That means transfer, and I think it means that in spring it's all going to be ready. And Trump selection, does it somehow impact maybe policy of EU, or maybe the behavior? Maybe there's any pause or acceleration, or no changes at all? How would you characterize it? Well, as of now, I would say that less impact than I expected. I thought it would be more mobilization in this case, but now it's the period of waiting and observing the first steps, Trump steps, and we need to also remember that he's not officially yet on the position. He's president-elect, but probably more active position will be seen in January, and after the inauguration is going to take part. Of course, there's no high expectations, and we see not a very proactive reaction when it gets to European leaders. And in the end, I wanted to ask you, because part of you already mentioned as for creating jobs and we need to grow, but what would you wish for us for the next 25 years? Well, yesterday I had a meeting with a diplomat from a Slovenian diplomat, and he said we've been part of EU for 20 years, and I was so angry at him because he put it somehow that it feels like just recently this expansion happened, and just we're falling behind a little bit. Now we're talking about 20 years, so at least these this older ex-officials are going to talk about what was there 20 years ago. But despite the course of actions when it gets to negotiations, I want us in 25 years have the memories about the war so distant from us, and with big appreciation to our people, to Ukrainian people, Ukrainian soldiers, and everyone who was leading the country to victory, so we can say that we succeeded. And I also want to confirm that's the ending of the war without being part of EU and NATO doesn't seem to be possible, and it's in the interest of citizens of Ukraine. So first of all, we will not be, I hope, thinking about this, and European Business Association will be listing dozens of millions of different citizens that are working in EBA companies, and of course not worrying about our borders, and we will be sharing and talking, having these discussions about big unbreakable country that has become the country of EU and NATO. Thank you. Dear friends, let's continue. I would like to invite Ms. Olena Kowalska. She's the deputy head of the office of, oh, you see, they're taking away my chair. So, the head of the office of the president of Ukraine, please. So, dear members of the European Business Association, I want to congratulate you on this 25th anniversary. Also, on behalf of the Office of the President of Ukraine, I also want to say that we do love business, European, Ukrainian, and we value even this 2 million of jobs that the members of EBA are creating, and we really value the culture and the experience that these companies bring into Ukraine. Some long time ago, I came from business to the office of President of Ukraine, and I was working with in international companies, and I understand that a lot of competencies, civilized competencies, paying taxes, managing personnel, technologies, it is brought by the companies with international experience. It's very important for growth of Ukraine. We are finding ourselves in very hard times, and big responsibility lays not only on our military that are fighting for Ukraine, and as the president said, it's either we fight or we work. And the companies that are members of European Business Association, it's also a front line. Very big responsibility is there now during the military actions when these atrocities are over, the responsibility is going to be even higher because we would need to recover the country. And now, as I said, it's not easy times, and it's very hard from the financial point of view, and we all understand this. And here I want to thank you, to thank businesses for the support and non-military purposes, and I'm responsible for humanitarian stream in the Office of the President. And there are some streams that are not in the first spot when it gets to finances, but due to business, European, Ukrainian business, we have an opportunity to support that and promote. I want to say sincere thank you for the support and wish you productive days, and Slava Ukraini. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lena. Indeed, it's very pleasing to hear that you understand and you share the vision of the need of this cooperation. I hope that the same feeling is shared by the President of Ukraine. So let's start the next discussion. And right now with us we have two people that you all perfectly know that are responsible for these two key countries, at least for now. And I would like to invite to get connected Ms. Oksana Makarova, the ambassador of Ukraine to the US, and Mr. Zaluzhny. He is the ambassador of Ukraine to the United Kingdom.
Пані Оксана, пане Валерію, мені здається, ви відчуваєте...
Mr. Valeri, I believe that you feel like you're not online with us because you, I hope, can feel the warmth of this audience, and overall you can feel all the energy we're sending towards you where you are. And I thank you for finding the time, making the time in order to join our dialogue with business. I'm going to start with Miss Oksana, ladies first. So Miss Oksana, in spite of everything, you found time to join today, and I would like to ask you about what could be some future new streams for Ukrainian diplomacy in the United States as of today. Glory to Ukraine, everyone. Thank you, Anna, for inviting us to annual meeting. 25 years on one side, it's a lot. On the other side, we can see a lot of work waiting for us. And thank you to all the representatives of the business, everyone who is creating jobs and you're paying taxes. And even during the war, not only you're not leaving Ukraine, but you're also growing and expanding. A lot of opportunities we've been working on for the 3 years. In fact, even during the war, we never stopped. And they are opening up here in the United States. At the same time, I want to say that now I understand after the elections, there are lots of discussions about what is going to be done differently, but the key goal is going to stay the same. It is preservance and strengthening of two-party support and maximum of work with our strategic partner number one, so we have more weapon, more help to Ukraine, and more sanctions for Russia. So on on one side, this is a standard, traditional, conventional work that we're actively continuing. This is the work with the Congress and with the administration that is still continuing its work until the end of this year. And of course, indeed, a lot of new context with the new administration that is coming, the transitional team, and you can see that this work is very active. Our president, one of the first things, talked with the new elected President Trump and correspondence and a lot of work that is not in public, and it's not ever easy. This transitional periods, and in the United States, this situations has already happened before when one party was in fact will be controlling the administration and both of the chambers of the Congress. But we understand that our key task is the victory of Ukraine and continuation of ensuring everyone why this victory is not only in the interest of the country itself, of Ukraine, but also the US. And I worked a lot with the previous administration, Trump, when I was Ministry of Finance. You all remember that the role of business in American administration always grows. So our work with American business, with European business, with everyone who I see as Ukrainian business, who is still in Ukraine, despite of the nationality of the company, so to say, of the parent company. And this should only be strengthening. So we're counting on you. Great.
Оксана, бачите, Оксана і Валерій, тут присутні в нас
Oksana,
понад
yeah,
500
and Valery,
людей, які насправді
over here we have more than 500 people present who listen to you. And indeed, these are the people who stayed in Ukraine, who continue doing their business in Ukraine. And I will address the same question both to you and Valery to you. But just while wrapping up the round on Oksana, when it comes to investors, how do you feel still? How does the mood of American business changes as well as American investors about Ukraine? Do you still kind of feel the increase of interest, or on the contrary, something stable, or maybe the drop of interest? And if there is this interest, in what spheres is it leaning more? Is it leaning more towards defense sphere or a much broader aspect? Thank you, Zenia. Thank you, Anna. Look, truth be told, we have been actively engaged in this line of work all these previous years. The interest to Ukraine has always been big, and we always remain that very country with the unrealized, unimplemented investment potential. But the interest to Ukraine has always been big. And during especially first months of full-fledged war, when everyone saw that Ukrainian business, the same as Ukrainian defenders, the same as Ukrainian public society, is extremely vivid, it showed the miracle nobody expected from it. The interest to the investments into Ukraine grew up. Obviously, there were some complexities. The insurance companies stopped working with Ukraine, the absence of funds, and so on. Some of them, the government of Ukraine, big teams, and huge thanks to EBA for the job done by them in this regards, 24/7. We managed to restore the risks insurance, and we are already at the final stage on travel advisory. All in all, there are technical details that will help American businesses to be more to implement their will to invest into Ukraine. I don't know whether you mentioned this, but last week there was this announcement, and this is a big result of the long work done before that, when right now we have the permit for the work of the contractors, those who do the maintenance and fix the weapon systems, meaning that now they can work in Ukraine. That's another big portion of development. That is why now we are working towards having much more available funds, not only by Exim Bank, but also by those other banks together with insurance company would provide this kind of expansion to Ukraine. What kind of sectors are these? It goes without saying the defense sectors, and it's not only the company manufacturers. There's a whole what's called ecosystem of materials, spare details, that everything that has to do with it, and definitely the energy sphere. It's not only our bad thing that the Russians have destroyed a big amount of our energy infrastructure, but that's another huge line of investments. Obviously, different critical materials, because not only we are filling the gap of our own needs, but we are also engaged into these kind of chains of supply, and that's also very important for our cooperation with USA. This kind of chain that not only us but our strategic partners like US and Europe need. And Ukraine has those critical materials that are identified as the USA as a critically important for the national security. Obviously, another sector of work is the agricultural business in a more broader sense of this word, because not only we can feed the whole world, and not only now, even during the wartime, we send our wheat to Ukraine, from Ukraine to other countries, and I was literally with my eyes crying out, was thinking Europe for this. But Ukraine, all in all, can increase its productivity when it comes to agriculture in times. That's exactly that very field where the investment should go to, and they will definitely go. Next innovations are digital innovations. Those questions that we talk through right now, we are so much involved into work with different companies, but also we discuss here those things that in Ukraine are already implemented and tested. That is why, again, the areas of cooperation, there is many of them. And I think that even by the end of this year, we will have a couple of positive solutions that will make it more possible for American businesses and for American funds to be more available for the investments in Ukraine. And I hope that is why I hope that this will be another stage, next stage, when we will be able to bring more of these businesses on our premises. The special emphasis is done on the work with regions. You know that we are signing those memorandums between states and Ukraine regions, and the whole work just starts from here, not ends, because decentralization and pay attention on a local level, this will create this favorable climate that not everyone, but a lot of teams create, very capable teams in regions. And that's a huge advantage to lure the investments in, and we can clearly see that. Thank you. Thank you, Oksana. Truth be told, your role that you play in the United States of America for Ukraine is really hard to overestimate, because indeed that was really hard for you to break through these key obstacles. That is why great thanks to you from all of us for you to withstand this blow. But I think that we will still have some place to move on. Mr. Valeri, you know that during the first stage of war, it seems to me you were exactly that person who was sustaining the whole idea that we still continue to talk to each other here in Kiev. And when I say we, I mean business. So great thanks, our personal thanks to you for that.
Дякую. Тобто це багато, звісно, всього коштувало, тим не менше.
So I know that it costed a lot to all of us, but now you're the ambassador of Ukraine in Great Britain. The same question to you, Mr. Valeri. How and what will your next steps be as an ambassador? What plans for the year 2025 you have? What changed after the elections in USA? And how can it impact potentially on the situation in UK? And the next question I will address a little bit later. So, first of all, good afternoon to you all. Thank you for this invitation. I'm extremely pleased to be present here again in your very good company and team. Also would like to greet you all with the 25th anniversary of the association. And as the ex-Chief Army Commander, would like to emphasize that now, under these conditions of the full-fledged war, businesses continue to work and, most important, continue to develop. And this is another sign that we not only have withstood this blow, but we also have gained some victories that will allow us and provide us with a very big perspectives for the future. Also would like to tell immediately on Great Britain. Perhaps it is really hard to say that our primarily strategic partner, number one, is USA due to the volume of those financial resources and help that they provide. However, Great Britain still, for Ukraine, remains primarily the reliable friend. In 2019, since 2019, the 4 prime ministers and 4 governances changed, and their policies towards Ukraine remain absolutely stable. And this just can lead us towards the idea that Britain can remain for Ukraine, if not strategical partner, but at least the reliable partner for a very long amount of time ahead. Great Britain has another interesting peculiarity that is very important to Ukraine, is the fact that Britain has always stood its ground for Ukraine as a very powerful, unprecedented lawyer and the leader in the pushing forward Ukrainian interests and Ukrainian questions at all, and Ukrainian agenda at all. This has to do with military affairs, and as the ex-commander-in-chief of Ukrainian armed force, I can tell you that yes, the biggest amount of weapon systems we received from US, but those strategical decisions that we did and those strategic weapon systems that gave us strategic outcomes, that was done by Great Britain. That is why I think that we absolutely
великі і досить серйозні перспективи.
We have absolutely big and serious perspectives. When it comes to the current agenda in Great Britain and what's happening here right now, I can't tell you that governments and businesses expected something from the elections in the United States. Perhaps it's a good sign that Ukraine has its own history, its own vision, and its own vision of the development of the situation. But we have to be honest that we have to state that there is some kind of concerns on the further steps, and perhaps it is still there. But when it comes to Ukraine for Great Britain still remains the absolutely partner. And yesterday they had the discussions in the parliament with our deputies, and many times I was present there on the inter-deputy fraction groups, and believe me, there is no even a slightest hint that we can lose some kind of positions in Great Britain. When it comes to our next perspectives and perspectives for the nearest future, obviously both us and British people, we rely our responsibilities and hope for that agreement that was supposed to become the biggest backbone for the businesses to develop in those spheres that are interested by the Great Britain. I will tell you a little bit later. It could have happened if this wasn't for a couple of concerns that are there in Great Britain. The first concern is obviously that Great Britain still, I think, on the way of choice of those initiatives, by what means they can ensure the security guarantees to Ukraine. There's a big discussions going on. And I think that this discussion will be going on even after the announcing of the results of the elections in UK. That will definitely dictate all the further actions. That also has to do with the investments into Ukraine. Primarily, this has to do with the security guarantees. Before these guarantees of security to Ukraine will be formed, Great Britain remains a big financial partner to Ukraine. And last week, the Chancellor proved and confirmed the previously told words by the Prime Minister of Ukraine that annually how many billions of Great Britain will be allocated to Ukraine. On the 23rd of October, Great Britain officially announced that they will allocate 2.26 billions of pounds as a credit, and it will be covered by those frozen assets. And I think that's a very brave step of Great Britain towards these frozen assets. And there is a rest of the measures that have to do with the billions of pounds that will correspondingly still. Doesn't matter how the situation will develop, they will be still moving forward. When it comes to the interested spheres of activity, obviously the defense sphere is number one. There is a huge interest in this regards, and a huge interest was shown by British Parliament that also clearly understands the engagement of British money do Ukrainian manufacturers have some kind of legislational field because of the laws of Great Britain that do not allow to do it in such a way as, for example, Denmark does it, say, to provide investments into the production of Ukrainian weapon systems. But I think that this there will be a solution to this problem, because there is an interest due to Ukrainian defense technologies and the interest to do the modernization of their own arms industry. And you all know it, that by now Great Britain is working through the new strategy of national security, where they are trying to put their own security into independent position from another international entities and bodies. The second line of work is energy security, obviously, and deprival of us from the dependence of Ukraine in this regards. I know that some projects now are already being finalized that will have to do with the support of our energy structure and infrastructure, especially during winter times, by means of implementation of some energy measures. We'll not be talking about them in deep right now, because right now this all is on the production stage. But all this, to my own mind, in my own opinion, has very broad perspectives. Obviously, next one are investments. The investments, the sphere and field number one, where Great Britain has a big interest, and especially IT sphere. That's something that, to my mind, will be moving a little bit even forward, and will push forward everything else, like local businesses, and perhaps to develop this sphere primarily in Ukraine. Again, a British Association of Business has ensured me that all the projects that were launched, they will develop and they will be continued, and we'll be finding another continuation in case there will be the perspectives and primarily from the point of view of the guarantees on securities. And what has recently been so much talked in some circles is primarily the education and culture. We almost managed to ensure the British establishment that the biggest, let us put it this way, the biggest guaranteed their capital input and the preservation of their investments is our education. That's our education and preparation of our future ministers, prime ministers, governors, even perhaps the future president. And now we're talking about the fact that we are wanting so much that in Great Britain annually, at least no less than 5,000 or 7,000 students to go through trainings and study in UK, so that in 20 years we could have completely different hand pushers with a completely different approaches to doing businesses and doing legislation and doing policies. I think that this all will have a pretty good perspective in the future. When it comes to UK and perspectives, that's it, what I wanted to deliver to you. If there is a need to, we'll be happy to answer your questions. Well, Mr. Valori, you have basically told everything in a very transparent and clear way. You have touched upon all the topics that we wanted to touch. So now we can definitely state that we still have support from UK. There is an interest from the point of view of investors. Also, we understood what kind of sectors by now are there on British agenda. And we are so much pleased that both United States and UK are our very reliable diplomatic rear area. That is why by the end, and to wrap it all up with, and I think it's going to be very logical, what can you wish to business representatives for the next upcoming 25 years? What can you both, Oksana and Valeria, wish for our businesses to have for the next 25 years? Well, if I may, I will start from the following. I think that business, even though I don't have anything to do with it, but my observation was as a distant observer, the business in Ukraine is very, very special. I think that if it went through the build-up stage, if it went through business, literally through work, I can just wish this business primarily to count on their own assets and forces, because your own power, your own love to your motherland, your own love to your house, to your family, to your friends, was something that pushed you forward to develop and to develop your businesses and to grow. That is why primarily, it doesn't matter what kind of partners we will have and by what means they will treat us, Ukraine and Ukrainian businesses. I wish you simply to hope and rely only on your own forces and to develop your own business, to rely on Ukrainian perfect engineers that we have and workers that we have, and to work primarily with our Ukrainian resource in favor of Ukraine. Make money in, you are the ones who make money in our country, and we treat our children due to your money, and we build our defense sector due to your money. So simultaneously, at the same time, you should know that for the next 25 years, it's not just only a big job, but also your big responsibility for what you will be doing. Please continue to fight for each working place, for each honestly earned penny. And I hope that as a result of this, at some point, we will be able to build, perhaps in 25 years, a beautiful IT, super modern state that will be called Ukraine. I wish you to have success in this regards. Thank you. Thank you.
Давайте послухаємо побажання з боку
Let us also
Сполучених
listen
Штатів
to the
Америки.
wishes from the point of view of United States of America.
Дякую. Я безумовно
Right,
приєднуюсь до
right.
всього.
Thank you. Definitely, I would like to join everything that was said by my friend, Ambassador Valery. But me, as a person who came out from business sector back in my time, and obviously after the end of my service, I plan to come back to it. I would like to wish the business primarily the equal rights of, and rules of the game and very resilient investment climate. Right. I would like to wish to our business to be united, because that much how Ukraine united in 2014 and 2022 helped us to withstand the external enemy. The same is very important to build up for the investment climate. Again, thank you to the EBA for what you do. You have to continue to do it, to reinforce it, so that to make sure that the rights and the rules of game will allow the businesses to have success. Would like also to wish success to the businesses, and to do that, to be more gallant and innovative when it comes to reaching the external markets. Here in the United States, each May, we had 3 companies, then there were dozens of companies, and the last Select USA, we had more than 50 companies. So these companies gained the first places here. Do not be afraid to be a competition to everyone else. And even the war times have shown that Ukrainian business is not only resilient, but the most modern, the most new. So use us as embassy to actively come out to these markets, to look for partners over here. We will be 24/7 for you. That is why we wish you all and us all victory, because we all clearly understand that everything we dream about doesn't matter whether it is in business or in the state sector or in our private sector, in our day-to-day life. It is not possible without reaching the main goal number 1, our victory, and to achieve resilient and sustainable peace.
Друзі, я думаю, що ви просто отримали такі
I
допінги
believe that you got this stopping, this energy flow into Ukraine from the business in Ukraine, so you can move back, or sorry, I meant move forward, of course, forward towards victory and help us. And as for looking for partners, we can say that the global business for Ukraine, we also see that this is the priority, this is the task. And here I want to support Ms. Oksana, that you need to be not afraid of opening this new markets for yourself. And I think both the Embassy and European Business Association, through its sister structure, Global Business for Ukraine, is going to help you move forward. So let's say thank you to our diplomats once again and let them go. Thank you.
Да, що це таке з назадом вийшло. Так.
Something went wrong with going back, but
Друзі,
so friends, who wants to know how we were selecting the management of the European Business Association? Not us, you actually selected. Do you want to know? Then I want to invite Ms. Tiberia.
now the results of the elections.
I'm back. I have the list here. I'm sure you cannot see it. So, before we see the results, I assume there will be results on the screen, right? Okay. I can tell you the following. We had an amazing participation. We had 18 candidates, 18 exceptional candidates that applied for the 8 available seats in the EBA board, including all the EBA boards that ended their mandate. So I think it's a long time since we had such a long list of applicants, yeah, and exceptional candidates. We are in a free country, so to get a seat at EBA board, you need to get elected by the members. So thank you very much for the members. 42% of the member companies voted for EBA board. And we can announce the results. Eight seats in the board of EBA. Company ArcelorMittal Kryvyi Rih, through Mauro Longobardo, CEO. International Finance Corporation, through Olena Voloshina, Senior Country Officer. SAP Ukraine, through Anna Mikulitska, Managing Director. Company SoftServe, through Taras Kitsmei, co-founder and member of the board. Metro Cash and Carry, Ukraine, through Olena Vdovichenko, CEO. Kyivstar, through Alexander Komarov, CEO. Two more seats left. Nestle Ukraine, through Alessandro Zanelli, market head, North, South and Eastern Europe. And finally, Siemens Ukraine, through Boriana Manolova, CEO. Congratulations to the newly elected board members. We are very proud and very glad to welcome you into the new board. Thank you very much.
So you see, the new board will be continuously led by Tiberio Dima, the president of European Business Association. So it prepares us for the next panel. It will be on business. And I invite to the stage the following people. Tomasz Fiala, the CEO of Dragon Capital. Tomasz, please take your seat. Mauro Longobardo. ArcelorMittal, please take your seat as well. Then Olena Vdovichenko, CEO of Metro Cash and Carry, and Bogdan Yarmolenko, country manager of EY. Please take your seats. We decided actually to talk about strong economy, building of a strong economy and its components. Please, yeah. So we see everything is on the move. Everything is on the move. We are so dynamic, even chairs. After you. So basically, we are now in the situation when we are actually at the third year of the war, and we see that actually we are coping all right. In this respect, what do you expect for the next year? What kind of expectations do you have, and what do you think should be the main components of sustainable and strong economy? What is missing at the current stage? Where we should actually add something in order to be really successful? Could you please start, Tomasz?
Okay, thank you, Anna. I also actually wanted to ask you, that was Freudian slip in inviting our ambassadors back to Ukraine to take part in the development here,
It's like yes.
or it was a mistake.
It was a mistake, but nevertheless, probably unconscious mistake. It was unconscious message.
Because part of our expectations for next year are that we may have a ceasefire in the first quarter, and as a result, some political processes might be launched. But on a more serious note, some numbers. Our expectations for the rest of this and next year are actually quite positive. We expect GDP growth to continue next year as well. We expect macroeconomic stability, stable exchange rate, only quite small devaluation. We expect to end this year at around 42 hryvnia to the dollar, and next year at 45. Average exchange rate this year 40.2. Next year roughly 43. So devaluation of less than 10%. Next year, quite a large budget deficit of around 19% of GDP, which will be covered through external support. We have enough funds secured to carry us through all of next year and also part of 26 through the ERA funds, which is long-term loans secured against interest from the frozen Russian assets. So we expect 3% GDP growth. It might be a little bit stronger. National Bank has a little bit more optimistic expectations. So for business, actually quite good conditions. Strong consumption. We expect also the Black Sea to continue working, allowing our exporters, agricultural and hard commodities, to freely export their products. On the negative side, we expect electricity shortages in the 3 months of the winter we expect actually 15%, which is approximately the level that we saw in July, where it was around 18%. It could be better if there is no new hits to our electricity production. The shortages could be significantly less, and that would result in more positive results. And the second bottleneck is labor shortages, which unfortunately will continue to face in the future, unless, as I said, as a result of the elections in the US, we will achieve ceasefire in the first quarter of next year.
And do you think that actually it is feasible and possible, this wish of Olga Stefanishina, that actually our organization can grow from 2 million of working places to actually thousands of millions or whatever? Do you think that in numbers, is it feasible?
Not quite. I mean, you have to take the population. You have to look at how many people are actually paying Social Security. Social Security is paid about I think 11 million people in Ukraine. So you have 11 million people officially employed. Out of those, I think 4 million work in the state sector, roughly. So there's roughly 7 million or 8 million people working in the private sector, not counting private entrepreneurs. So we can hardly have 10 million, we can hardly have members with more than 10 million employees. So I think we have a pretty big share of maybe up to a third of the employees that are working in the private sector in Ukraine. Yeah, certainly we can grow, but it depends on demographics, and depends on how many people will come back after the war. So not quite the numbers that the Vice Prime Minister has mentioned. We have to be kind of realistic. Yeah, and we can certainly not have more than 11 million members if there is no more people working.
Then we will cover at least so far 100 of companies, but nevertheless, maybe we will grow. But let's see. But it's just interesting, because I also think that there is some sort of capacity at this stage. And frankly speaking, still, I think that we have to work hard in order to attract new investments, right? And when it comes to new investments, we will come back to you, Tomasz. I will ask Bogdan. Do you see nowadays the movement, any movement from fresh investors who are considering now to come to Ukraine? Or do you think that they will most likely come after the ceasefire?
Yeah, Anya, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for your question. I will definitely answer your question. But let me start with one quote that I like very much. Sorry, я перейду українською мовою, думаю, так буде простіше і зручніше.
I will switch to Ukraine. I think it's going to be easier. I want to mention this very interesting quote. One of the key figures in the world hockey, and once he was asked, how does it work that you play so fantastically? What is the secret? And he said, you know, the secret is very simple, that everyone plays where the puck is in the moment, and I'm playing as where it will be in the next moment. And this is something that I want to talk about and share my reflections, and whatever you find interesting. If you find it interesting, I will be pleased, but if no, then no. What I wanted to say that I wanted to come back to what Anna said when she asked Ms. Stefanishina about not conflict, but interaction, the balance of national interest and European integration. First point that I would like to highlight here, and I'm very sure that that's how it is, that there's no difference in balance. And in reality, our interest of our country is solely in European integration, because this is our civilizational choice. If we don't join EU, us as a country who is finding themselves on geopolitical break, our fate is going to be very different. And I think that joining EU for us, it's the existential matter. Of course, there are a lot of skeptics that are very skeptical about joining, but once again, I want to repeat myself, this is the choice and there's no other choice. And so you believe even if there are negotiations without negotiations, we still need to take it, right? But here we would rather ask Ms. Stefanishina, because I know some things, but you can say something, you're a consultant, right? Well, I will say that there are some things that where we can't, there's going to be negotiation, but the negotiation is going to be more about the question of deferment of activation of certain, postponement of certain regulations. But, and this is the second point about the regulation. If we talk about this existential choice and the norms and standards are going to exist, and here I would like to refer to Ukrainian business with an ask or even recommendation. Take a look closely to those standards, those European standards that are about your industry. It could be quite disruptive for your industry. Maybe you don't even you cannot expect sustainability and other things we're not really acquainted with to European bureaucracy. Take a look at how it's going to be impacting your business. And the second recommendation is go to EBA. And now with the Prime Minister of Ukraine, there's a working group created, and go there with your concerns. I will ensure you they will be heard. This is just the issue, as I said, as Mr. Gretzky said, that I also hope that it's going to be ceasefire and there's going to be fair peace for Ukraine. And after that, there's going to be Euro integration. And by the way, us as an organization, absolutely for free, we help Ms. Stefanishina with project management. We have a team. That's the investment of our global firm. This is a team from 10 people that are tracking all the stages of negotiations. So we help to understand the status and accelerate the negotiations in this way. And the last thing that I would like to say, Anya, so, you know, we need to finish with something positive, right? So, according to the information that I received from my colleagues, not Ukrainian colleagues, and they, well, from their side, they also received the information from the management of their country that, by the way, that country is going to be the head of EU next year, that they believe that Ukraine is going to be taken into EU by accelerated procedure. I don't really understand how technically this is possible, but there's this in 2029 or even earlier. Well, here it was even earlier that they were mentioning. But once again, I cannot comment here because, first of all, I cannot really tell how this is technically possible, but okay. But significantly less is when? Next year? Well, no, let's not put something that we want as a reality, but nevertheless, Good news that I would like to share is as for investors. I'm ready to confirm the words of Mr. Zaluzhny and many other words that we work in different countries and we see that there is interest, there are interested investors, there's capital, there's even this interest of Foreign Common Laws and Development Office. This is the Ministry of External Affairs, in the Great Britain, and they're doing a lot of projects where they're exploring what is possible in Ukraine and what industries, what enterprises, and there's interest. And I'm sure that after a ceasefire, subject to, again, European Union, we have quite good chances. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to be very hard, but the business must be ready. But there's a chance. Well, if we're going to have membership in the EU and ceasefire, then this is going to be just perfect. I don't know. This for sure must be something amazing. And when we talk about the air, also as Marsh McLennan mentioned, that they could recover flights. Air traffic, well, I don't have the right to talk about the background, but I'm quite skeptical. To ceasefire, why? To ceasefire, yes, and air traffic, well, yes, I'm quite skeptical. Especially if it's about Kyiv, because just an easy example, Anna, would you go into a plane before ceasefire? I wouldn't too. I think no one would, and I think technically I'm not military. I think it's technically impossible. What Marsh McMillan, yeah, but Tiberio said that at one point he joked that it would be so cool to go in there and look at everything, meet the drones and in your way and missiles, yeah, and be on the screen of all the radars of anti-air. Yeah, but in the January next year, you believe it's not real. Well, it's not in my competence, first of all, Anya, but I believe that having this information that I have, I believe that this is too fast. Okay, fine. Good that we have the interest of investors, and you also mentioned that European integration overall is going to be a component of our sustainable development, right? And also ceasefire, when do you expect it? When should it happen? You don't know? This is not in my competence. Of course, we would like, yeah, but you can talk about some hope. Well, let's say like this. Most of the people, this from the point of view that I trust, they believe that realistically it could be after 20th of January. Well, this is a very broad period of time after 20th of January, but that's okay. We will take this in. And as for your business, your business, so is it better for you to conduct business? Is it the same? What is the dynamic in your segment? Well, in our business, the dynamic is conservative positive, so to say. What does it mean, conservative positive? Well, the thing is that maybe we're not very indicative when it gets to the whole picture of Ukrainian economy, but big consulting companies, so for the Big Four, they work a lot of, they have a lot of work with projects of technical assistance that somehow replaced the decrease of the demand from local firms. But there is a lot of projects on technical assistance, and we put in a lot of work in each of them, and
I'm looking at Mauro,
it grows.
and I see that he is without translation. Does it mean you can speak Ukrainian?
Not speak, but
but you can understand, or train.
after some years already.
Of marriage with Ukrainian lady.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay. When it comes to ArcelorMittal, and how do you cope, and what do you think in general in terms of what should be the main, what should be the points for development of the sustainable economy, and how generally your business can actually help in this respect?
Look, as the colleague said, the ceasefire is the main milestone. No? We have prepared two scenarios for the next year, depending on this situation, because mainly for the commodity business, the ceasefire will determine if we come back to be competitive outside Ukraine. Of course, the market of Ukraine is always important for everybody, but is reduced. And for the capacities that big companies has, you need export. And in order to be competitive on the export, you need some cost that is aligned to the international standards, let's say. Unfortunately, the situation that we are having now with all the problems that were already commented are not making us competitive. So it's very difficult for us to go to export and to win volumes outside Ukraine. We have somehow draw a circle around our plant where we can get in a competitive way, you know, with all our products. And unfortunately today the circle is pretty small.
But do you have circle? But at least you
We
have
have
it.
circle.
Yeah.
We have circle this year during the June, July. We have been operating around 50% of our production in terms of steel and around 70-80% in the mining sector. But then when you enter again in some blackouts and a lack of energy, so our businesses are pretty sensitive to the continuity of the supply. So it's very difficult to plan. And it's also very difficult to keep the customers, because when you have a problem, then you need to deliver. The customer is looking at you and say, okay, maybe you cannot deliver. Even if price is fine, we will buy from someone else just to avoid ourselves the risk of buying from you. And you know that also media somehow abroad are showing always not the positive part, but the negative part is making more news. So it's again more difficult to convince our customers that we are a reliable partner in this current situation. So somehow that is what is happening. Of course, if ceasefire will come, we hope that our cost, availability of electricity, people will become more available. It will take time in terms of people to come back, you know, to a proper supply in our internal market. But in any case, they should be more available. We have ourselves 3,500 employees in the army, and we are expecting them to come back. So now we are searching for people, and if we would have them with us, so of course we will not search. No, we will have already our own resources. We made some calculation, and since 2021, we actually have 11,000 people that left our company for different reasons, and we were able only to hire back 3,000. And the main reason is like we do not find the specific professions. It's not even a matter of the number itself. There are some specific professions that is very difficult to find. And the second problem is we lost people that were very experienced. So in our company, the people stay in work for 20, 30 years. And we lost all these people, and we are getting, of course, new people, but at the first month they saw a steel plant. So it's not only a matter of number, it's a matter of experience. So along the time, hopefully, they will go back to the value that we had before in terms of knowledge, but it's pretty complicated at the current moment. So 2 plans, 2025 we ceasefire, we'll see it positive, cautiously, conservative, cautiously. With no ceasefire, we still see the challenges that we are having today. We are entering the winter. Winter we expect to be complicated, especially because of the energy and...
But if there will be blackouts, for example, and severe blackouts, how will you cope? Do you have sufficient amount of generators, or they will not help you? So how do you cope with all this?
Not enough to operate, enough to save the facility, I will say yes. So currently, when we operate at 50% of our capacity, we are consuming around 250 megawatt hour. So it's a pretty big amount. It's half of what we were consuming before, but it's still a big amount. And we created internally in the plant a lot of energy islands in order to avoid a sudden blackout could damage our equipment. So we can actually safely shut down our equipment and avoid to be destroyed and to be then rebuilt in 2-3 years, and something with a huge investment. So that one we did. We bought a lot of them, but it's not for production. So it's just for idling the production in a safe way. So this is actually what we could do. You imagine to buy a generator for 250 megawatts is not realistic. No, we don't have any space to put. We had to make a specific plan to put 10 generators that 1 megawatt each one. They consume like 24,000 liters of diesel for one day. Wow. So it's becoming also an economical problem. So somehow good to save the equipment, but not enough.
Not enough to operate. Yeah. Very interesting, because actually you are really so big, and it also creates additional problems for this. But nevertheless, still you know how you overcome the winter, so that not to die actually after all.
That we know. I don't know if it is the right statement. That we try to do our best and try to anticipate at least the majority of the possible challenges that can appear. Yes, we do.
Good. Let's ask Olena. Олен, насправді метро, я так думаю, що керувати
truth be
зараз
told,
дуже непросто, тому що, по суті, магазини розкидані по
because
всій
all in all,
країні.
since the shops are being
І тому
spread
що
away
запровадити
all over
відповідний
Ukraine,
регламент.
including
Як
the
людина, як просто справляєшся з
front
цим?
areas, how do
Як
you deal with that? How
цим? І
do
які результати
how do your
взагалі?
people deal with
Що
that?
ти
And
вважаєш
what kind
мають
of
бути
outcomes are there? And what do you think
ключовими
should be
стовпами
the
для такої надійної
key
економіки нашої?
backbone of our reliable economy? Right. Thank you for the question. Good evening, everyone, colleagues, friends, partners. A little bit generalized information. We are there on the market for a little bit more than 21 years, and we are operating in 17 cities of Ukraine, and out of 26 trade centers that we had by the beginning of the full-fledged war. Right now, we are opening the doors of 24 trade centers, including Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, Zaporizhia. It means that we still have shops that are very close to the front combat area, and we work not only with the final consumers, but also we are actively developing our hotel and restaurant businesses, meaning B2B part. And the same as you, I will not be opening and discovering something new for you. We all have many amount of challenges, as any business has. Primarily, this has to do with security, that has to do with the lives of people, with the potential destroying of property. This very Saturday, one of our trade centers on the territory, a rocket landed on it. The remnants of rocket landed on it, and it was damaged. But my team within 2 days basically patched everything up, and on Monday in the evening we already opened up our doors for the clients. Thank you. Also, another challenge that has to do with the security, but this challenge is a little bit commercial, is the constant air alarms. And us as a businesses that is responsible ones, we close our trade centers during these times and we evacuate our clients and teams, meaning that we do not operate. And for the last financial year, we lost approximately 2 million sellings, 2 million sellings. So it's not only security component, but also the commercial component. The commercial component can be reimbursed. But what Mauro told, and this also has to do with the lack of people in the country. And for us, that's a lack of our clients who move out of the country, as well as a lack of the staff. We are trying to, let's put it this way, to work not for hiring, we're not recruiting people, we are trying to work more proactively in keeping the people in our teams. But this way or another, nobody has canceled mobilization. And 200 of our co-workers are defending our country in the ranks of Ukrainian armed forces. And we are so much waiting for them to come back, and we will be ready to integrate them back, because since the beginning of the full-fledged war, we have been working upon how we can integrate the veterans and people who will be coming back, not only to team, but to a society as it is. And the third risk and the third challenge is the increase of costs. The costs for salaries and wages to our employees. I love to pay taxes, and we all pay taxes to our complete capacity, but we all want the businesses to be as much responsible as we all are here. Then it will be much and much easier for our country to come to the victory, not only to military, but also in terms of the integration of the EU, as well as the costs for electricity. Since the very beginning, we are building our trade centers in such a way that they are equipped with the industrial generators. But we clearly understand that this energy is 5 times more expensive than the power supply from the regular chains of supply. So how do we manage? Well, we manage relatively okay as a whole Ukrainian business is. As a business that showed to what extent it is resilient, to what extent this business is vivid, and we have talked about this, and we will be talking about this. And during the last financial year that ends up on September, so means that right now we are in the first quarter of the next year, we have grew up to 15%. And not only we grew for 15%, Well, this kind of growth can be measured in different ways. We always calculate the qualitative indicators to understand to what extent stable our business is. And a huge amount of portion of our businesses, meaning that the hotel and restaurant industry has also survived and also continues to work. That's okay. This plus 15%. This is in addition to those pre-war period. But before war, we had plus 26% of growth in 2021. But if we compare the first year, the inflation was too high. So the last year, since we had internal inflation that we are measuring and calculating of 5%, it means that we were growing due to the cost of the sold items. So the group of clients grew, Orica grew, and this is something that gives us joy because hotel and restaurant business, the majority of which even suffered a blow during COVID times, withstood and continues to work under such conditions right now. So these SMEs that are very important for the country. Also, we have been growing not at the expense of what I told you about promo, but we have been expanding due to the regular price. We have this system of the triple price. When you come to our shops, you can buy more and pay less. And due to this, we sell in bigger volumes, and our part of promo, and promo never is something that formulates the loyalty of clients because it's kind of temporary love for money. That is why these very qualitative indicators, as the growth of business clients, as the growth of the part of regular price, the salience on regular prices, this is something that gives us this understanding that not only we have survived and overcame this period, but we are still growing. And it means that this state still has a huge potential as a final consumer, both as well as in the business field. And if we take a look at the moods of the consumers, how would you assess the dynamics and changes in this regard? Is there any kind of change between what people used to buy before the war, during the first year of war, and now? Well, I will be mostly talking about my clients because each of our colleagues in the different branches, we have our own field of expertise, but according to different studies, we still have kind of a restrained demand. So this kind of consumer confidence index, if as soon as some kind of blackout occurs, this index immediately drops. As soon as we have the new wave of mobilization, again, this all drops. But all in all, people are more constrained in terms of spending money. They come to this in a more wise way. As back in 2014, we have been observing a huge wave of downside, meaning that people would be buying something in smaller sizes. Even back then, the manufacturers would be producing things in different sizes. This time, it didn't happen this way. What is peculiar for Ukrainian consumers? Never back in 2014 nor now, the consumers didn't reduce the level of demand to quality, meaning that quality has always remained a criteria of choice of this or that product. Secondly, if we talk about my clients, my portfolio is pretty big one because our mission is a huge family purchase, not only just to put something into your fridge like bread or and milk goods. What we observe in this regards is a little going up, meaning that this kind of parcel did not drop, it just increased 5%, and the increase in money for 14%, meaning that this kind of mix changed. People still buy and afford themselves to buy not even premium but medium plus medium plus of products. Okay, did it become better in comparison to war, or we simply didn't fall? Yes, we did not fall. So the first fall happened when the full-fledged war started, but back then, this kind of panic purchase what we call panic purchase started, because people didn't see what's gonna be tomorrow. Now people understand that this kind of chains of supply have been restored, the presence of goods on the shelves is there, the workers are working, they don't have this chaos anymore. They simply take it more cautiously about what shops to go to, but they still continue to buy and to purchase those fresh groups of goods, fish, because fish is always there is a choice. Okay, between there is a it's either fish or meat, and when it comes to meat, okay, it's kind of chicken, wheel, or something else, right? But if the question on Ukrainian manufacturers, since we understand that by now a huge amount of people are looking for the new fields for themselves, and a few of them are have launched some processes or changed something. Do you feel this kind of trend, or there is no this kind of trend? And how does Meta treats it in order to take, say, Ukrainian craft manufacturer and to sell it? Well, I stand on the ground on support of the domestic manufacturers. 80% of our goods are done on the premises of Ukraine. 30% we import, and all in all, Ukrainian consumers, they give advantage to Ukrainian manufacturers. We don't have salmon, or sometimes we during wintertime we import fruits and vegetables. When it comes to something craft, so the problem around craft goods is something local, meaning that if I start to talk about the supplies, I need this very product to be there 24/7 in all my shops. And as soon as any kind of manufacturer will pop up who will be able to achieve this, one can do that, but one needs money for that. Then we will be happy and more than happy to work with the craft manufacturers. So all in all, this very network, within this network, a client is the one who is doing the choice. So if this is in demand, and I see over here a couple of my favorite vendors, they provide the if they can provide the presence on our shelves, it's something that's indeed something that the consumers need. Okay, presence and rhythmicality, that's are two things that are in the priority to be there on the shelves of Metro, right? And thank you to your German partners who continue to cooperate with us so to make sure that Ukrainian manufacturers will be brought to German shelves. Right, right. We have a separate initiative for that, and with many vendors, we have been working in order to help them to reach the markets of West Europe. And it's the easiest to do that is through our own trademarks, because when we work with our trademarks, they cover a couple of countries, because for all metro countries, they are the same. And the requirements to quality are the same, the requirements to packaging are the same. So it means that it's much and much easier to enter these markets with our own trademarks and then with our own brands. Thank you, Elena. And while coming back to Tomasz, for me, you're not just a businessman, but you're somebody who can provide your visionary view and look at different risks. Tomasz, I would like to ask you this thing. Very often we hear it this way that perhaps when there will be a ceasefire, there will be another wave of war, and so on and so on. How do you take this very narrative that potentially from this or that with this or that intensity the war might continue? There might be some kind of term or period. How do you read that somebody forecasts us the fate of European Israel? Well, the question itself is a pretty good one. I think that now, after these elections in USA and that results that we will have, and those first announcements, there is this chance of more than 50% that in the first quarter of 2025 there can be achieved some achievements on ceasefire, and that the intensity of war will definitely go down. But to the extent we saw that after 2015, after Minsk II, there is still some kind of provocations there as the front line occurred, or say a conflict of a little bit less intensive but still continued. Perhaps this is something that will continue, but the intensity can significantly reduce, the front can be stabilized. There is a chance that this kind of movements will not be used, as well as the usage of very heavy weaponry systems. on both sides. And the same as after 2015, this will allow us and businesses to work and to have more long-term ability to forecast, and will provide us this ability to move forward within European accession. I'm not that much optimistic here as Bogdan, and I think that this very terms and periods by the year 2030, if we will go through all those clusters, and we have too many of them, and if within 5 years we will be able to cover them, this will be definitely very complicated work to do. As you all have seen that from that report that EU Commission published during the couple of weeks ago, we have made a significant progress, but in a little bit more slower pace. We are supposed to move within for the next 5 years to be by the year 2030 in that position that we will only have to ratify our agreement by those 20 members of EU, by them. That back in their time, it also took like 1.5 years for those countries that became the members of EU like 20 years ago, say as Croatia. That is why I think that the year 2030 this will be very positively. And this very process is if we speed this all up, and if everyone will be able to see that, both business representatives who are here and who are not here yet, so these chapters we will be opening them up and closing them down. And we will be moving with such a tempo as we can see in those countries that joined EU in 2004. It is something that significantly motivates the growth of investment. It doesn't mean that we have to become the members of EU and only after that the investors will come. They usually come even sooner. Okay. While us accessing EU, even if the kind of intensivity of fire will be there, this will not be able to stop the investors from coming on these premises. Do I get this right? Right. So the same question to Bogdan. How do you, Bogdan, see the perspectives of our fate of European Israel? Well, truth be told, I don't like this definition European Israel, because Israel is Israel, Ukraine is Ukraine. We have our own fate, our mission, our history, but I clearly get this kind of allegory. I think that, truth be told, very much our future depends on two things. And here I definitely see eye to eye with Tomasz. That has to do with European integration. And secondly, we have already spoken about this, and I would like to put emphasis. This is the provision of security guarantees. Without the provided security guarantees, and these security guarantees should be accepted, the investors will accept them, and the bank owners will accept them, will estimate them, and they should be sustainable. These two components, not even joining the EU, but European and trajectory and the security guarantees, this is something that provide us pretty good investments and will provide us a chance to build a completely different country. Will our country be Israel from the point of view of technology? I would really look into that, because Israel is not only about military technologies, but also it has to do with lots of civilian technologies like Intel and so on. So primarily Israel, these are technologies, and Israel is really a very powerful army, so with a very cost and the spendings for the army, with big taxes on the army. Will Ukraine be spending much money for defense? Yes, it will. Will we be able to become a highly technological country as Israel? Definitely, yes, but we will definitely spend much money for the defense. Right, I just look at Vlad Roshkovan in the hall. Thanks for coming here. That's from the International Currency Fund. Can I ask you, how do you see the changes of mood in the United States of America, and what can this bring to us, to Ukraine, and what should we put the emphasis on to put a very sustainable economy? Right. Thank you so much. Would like to join to everything said by our ambassadors that indeed the economy is working because of your money, and the army is being sustained at the expense of your taxes paid. Thank you for this. And definitely not at the expense of international currency fund. And secondly, what I really loved what Zaluzny told, that we have to rely on ourselves first. But will not be I would not be putting ourselves only on dependence from USA. And I looked at the following, that yesterday and the day before yesterday, Borrell was in Kiev, and yesterday there were talks of British Prime Minister with the President Macron and another European leaders. They all say that despite American support, we are European country, and they still plan on supporting us, and they are ready to supersede any resources that the American government might not be ready to provide us. But even I think that the American government will be able to provide it, because that is why, all in all, I'm quite positive in this regards. And you kind of provoked me a little bit, but usually I do not comment the past and agenda of negotiations. But despite American elections, we came in here for the International Currency Fund. And I have no idea whether you look after the Ministry of Finance's website. There is this slide about budget support to Ukraine. And the last time, there were $99 billion for the support of Ukraine since the beginning of the full-fledged war. But during these times, we still have some money coming. And right now, it's more than $100 billion. And the majority of this money is being given to Ukraine within the framework of obligations of international partners, according to IMF program. And again, I will not be putting my comments about the agenda of negotiations, but I can quote that we started this very week with the meeting of different ministers of Ukraine, when the head of the mission tells that you do some kind of impeccable things. And again, I don't know whether I should or should not tell it, but this kind of structural benchmark are being done, and this qualitative performance criteria is being already done. So everything what is needed from Ukrainian authorities, Ukraine will do. Everything that is needed from IMF will be able to do that. Next, the next step will be up to you, not up to USA.
По-перше, дякую, що ти сказав. Я не спеціально за breaking news або це.
Thank you for saying that. It's not for breaking news or anything. It's really interesting for me to know what you're thinking, and also and meeting with the National Bank is very important work. And I think all of us, really, it was important for us to get this positive message, for us to understand that we're not going to be left behind. We're going to be in a team of allies and partners, but we need to hope for ourselves, of course. And I wanted to ask Nastya as well about people, because people is everything, personnel, and what does it look like on the labor market? What can you say about these years, and how do you believe it's going to look like in the next year?
Неочікувано, але рада вас всіх
бачити. But I'm happy to see everyone. The situation is critical. Everything that was voiced from the panel today, it's everything that we hear every day, every second, every minute from all the companies. It's a very colossal deficit of labor people. And on the one side, I have thousands of people that are looking for jobs. On the other side, it's not the skills or the quality that people need in the market. And of course, we need to, that's a big problem. We need to teach, we need to prepare, and also, of course, the ceasefire would be changing a lot. And I would really, there's a very painful discussion, very painful for the market, where it was discussed the topic of migrants and engaging migrants and labor force, not Ukrainian, yes, it was massively discussed. And we were doing this little research as for this, and it was interesting that on one side, companies, they somehow are ready. There's no position from the government, no clear position from the government, yes or no. Some even said that there's some working group, but never yet to be seen, this working group, but and the companies, they're quiet because on the one side they're ready to take them in because it's a critical situation. There's no one to work really on this enterprises, and everyone is agricultural, construction, psychologists. But are they going to be ready to work with not Ukrainians? Yes, but Ukrainian market is very not ready. So there's a big negative response from the side of the market, and now no tolerance. Yes, I think there's something for us we need to learn. Yes, we also need to learn how to take in not Ukrainians, but also be respectful towards Ukrainians. But I also wanted to ask Alyona Voloshina, MFK, International Financial Corporation, and we heard what was voiced from the panel discussion. We also heard about the situation with IMF and staff, and what is International Financial Corporation planning for the next year? Well, look, we never stopped our financial support starting from the full-scale invasion. We invested approximately 1.8 billion into Ukrainian economy, which is a record for us. Such big money that was had never been invested in Ukrainian economy. We really believe in its resilience, and we are we're finding clients for ourselves. Our last landmark transaction that we supported along with the colleagues from EBRD, and this is having a very powerful investor in telecommunicational industry and coming in. This is a good sign that even during the war, someone invests a lot of money in Ukrainian infrastructure. So this is something that was supported by us, this transaction, and we also have this pipeline and for $1.5 billion, and the sectors we also look into those sectors that were voiced today: agro business, tech, supporting with the banks. Oh, Mr. Andrei Grigorovich, when I mentioned about banks, he's right here. So we're working, and if you have any good projects, please come to us, and we will be looking into them with pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Elena. Okay, friends, we heard the audience, we heard the panel discussion, our beautiful members of the board, and I want to say thank you to all of you for sharing your thoughts and providing this positive guidance. And I think it's very important to support each other in these days, this not easy times. And please take your seats. This is a marathon of thoughts, you know, and
Тому що наступний блок
дискусій next block of discussions is going to be about macrofinance, macroeconomic and situation, and what do we expect in the next year when it gets to financial base. And I want to say thank you that traditionally representatives of the government are joining us and representatives of business. That's why I want to invite to this stage Mr. Andriy Pyshny, who is NBU governor in Ukraine. Please.
Пана Сергія Марченка, міністра
фінансів. Mr. Sergei Marchenko, who is the Minister of Finance in Ukraine.
Пані Інгу Андрієву, MasterCard.
Miss Inga Andreeva, MasterCard Country Manager
Пана Олександра Писарука,
Mr. Alexander Pesaruk, CEO of Raiffeisen Bank Ukraine. And Bob Saum, who is the World Bank Regional Country Director. Oh, he's not here. Okay, but he's going to join us. But maybe Alyona is going to, or is he going to come? Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Дякую, друзі.
Thank you, friends.
Що ж, насправді, по-перше, дякую друзям із влади
за те, що ви we want to say thank you to our friends from the government that you came to us even during this evening time. Andriy, I'm going to start with you because indeed National Bank is doing quite a lot in order to maintain microfinancial stability. How would you assess macroeconomic situation in 2024, and what is your prognosis for the next year? Unfortunately, there's no sound.
Це працює?
Everything is working.
Доброго вечора, дякую за запрошення.
Hello, thank you for
Макрофінансова
the
стабільність
invitation. Unfortunately, the sound is very poor.
самостійно втримати майже неможливо. Через це я хочу одразу зазначити,
Macroeconomic
що
stability is something that is not possible
взаємодія, яка є
to keep
сьогодні у
together
Національного банку
alone, and I want to say that this is the joint result of interaction of the National Bank with the government, Ministry of Finance, and National Bank of our Ukrainian team with international partners. It's multi-component. That's why talking about that it's only the effort of one institution, even though yes, we do a lot of things indeed, but along with us, other colleagues do not less than us in this Ukrainian governmental team. And how do I assess this situation? Well, we voiced this publicly in of 31st of October when we published macro prognosis that was updated after the first half a year of the cycle of macro forecasts, and the situation is quite stable despite the implementation of those risks that we were talking about, and they are connected with certain acceleration of inflationary dynamic. But right now, nothing is happening of those things that we would not foresee in the beginning of the year. And we were talking about inflation and the probability of acceleration in the second half a year. That's why our policy was quite conservative, understanding what challenges we are expecting to see in the end of the year in 2025. And when we talk about the factors that now stimulate inflation, it has temporary character, temporary nature. Not only they are prognosable, but also it's temporary. And we are expecting not only slowing down the dynamics, but relative decrease of inflation by the end of 2025. And overall, National Bank in the beginning of the year adopted the update to the credit policy. And if you're interested to see how we're going to be working and how we're going to be implementing our policy, you can look into this document. It is a public document, so it's monetary policy. And there it says that the National Bank gradually, step by step, trying to go back to normal regime of functioning, mode of functioning, and being an institution of Ukrainian economy coming back to the practices that existed before war. And once again, I just want to remind you that before the war, we had floating exchange rate and inflationary adjustments, and these were something that Ukraine was possible to do. And some of these tools even helped to go through the shock that was generated by the war. And we had to fix the exchange rates and go away from inflationary tariff, but everything was changed. And throughout these 3 years, we are recovering, and we're going into the mode of flexible inflational work and adjustment, and this is done because of the ambiguity of the situation. And our macro outlook is showing that GDP is gonna grow bigger. 4% next year is gonna be 4 and 3, and then 4 and 6 again, and the inflation that we prognose is going to slow down to approximately 7% because we still have the intent to be as efficient as possible and as organized as possible and as possible as open as possible to those challenges that unfortunately is generated by war, and we have managed and learn how to work with them. And I want to say that we have a absolutely unprecedented colossal experience how to cope with inflation, because in 2020 the inflation was 26, and that's not even the end. In 2020 it was 5, and we understand that the challenges and the complexity, it's something that we very precisely and meticulously manage to work with, and we also recovered the functionality of internal arena. We also we removed the commission in 2020. We made a statement that commission financing is not considered to be a source of coverage of by the recovery, and I'm looking at the situation despite the challenges very pragmatically, realistically, and I think the situation is still manageable. Great, and we also were talking about this, that the next year business community at least is expecting that it's going to be ceasefire. And what do you your forecast, does it have this embedded that there's going to be a ceasefire or at least a spot base, whether you put it into the outlook, or if no, how really it can impact and improve the situation? Well, we were prognosing the duration and the course of war in 2022 didn't hit the goal, the target. Then in 2023 didn't hit it. Then again, and in the end we decided that we will stop trying to prognose the length and the course of the war, and we will be as efficient as possible in implementation of our key mandate, but under any conditions. We will do everything in order for the resilience of Ukrainian economy, Ukrainian business, the capacity of the military, and to make everything possible for this war to come to victory as soon as possible. I don't know how long it's going to last, and that's why we need to constantly maintain our resilience and work on preservance of macro financial stability. It's not a given, it's not a miracle, it's a result. It's a result of our interaction, of your work. This is a result of our joint interaction with our international partners and the support that we feel. And through this, we will do everything possible in order to be efficient in implementation of the mandate as long as it's needed. Under those conditions under which we will have to find ourselves, any conditions. And this is, by the way, a quote, a direct quote from the updated strategy of the National Bank to implement your mandate under any conditions. This is something that is worth respect. We're hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. I also wanted to ask, first of all, I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Serhiy, for joining. This is tradition for us that you're joining our annual meeting, and today is 25th general meeting, and us business, we also we're interested to see what's going to be next, and how to work with the budget and everything. We just wanted to see you as a Minister of Finance. What do you think? How real is going to be to execute the budget. And one of the things that was mentioned many times that we should count on ourselves. Of course, international partners, that's important, but nevertheless, you have to count on those who are in Ukraine, who produce added value, who are paying the tax to the state treasury. And we were talking about that everyone should be in equal conditions and pay tax. And how do you think, in this current setup, how we see it, how the budget can be executed, whether there's going to be any surprises or maybe something good surprises?
Дякую за запрошення.
Yeah.
Звичайно,
Well, thank you for the invitation. Of course, pleasant surprises is probably to a different department. We're probably mostly about unpleasant surprises, but this is the role, this is the mandate. But I will be trying. I would support the words of the head of the National Bank that we need to be rational and pragmatic, not to expect any special miracles and do our work daily, because only in this we can reach the result. But it doesn't mean that it can be some weaknesses or some maybe some simplified conditions or benefits. We need to be building the system, in particular, also taxation that is going to be fair and equal taxation for all areas of business when we won't have the distortion of competitive environment. This is something that we want, and this is the end goal. And of course, including these conditions where we find ourselves. And if you ask me how we can maybe for the next year, how really we should count on our own efforts, this is quite an uneasy, not easy answer, and it's quite complicated because we're already embedding the needs of internal financing. It's 8.4 billion US dollars, and this is quite a significant resource. That's a little bit less than the volume we get this year, but that means that we significantly depend on external help. And this gap is not going to be that easy to remove because we saw the shocks and risks for 2022, and I wouldn't like us to go back to those means that were used in 2022 because they wouldn't, it's something business or citizens wouldn't like those. And that's why the key task is to ensure pragmatic relationship and standing by the interest of Ukraine abroad, first of all, with our partners, with key banks, development and the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, and key countries that are supporting us, G7, despite the fact that they have also some processes going on in their countries and restructuring. And I think this is not a reason for us to be pessimistic, but it's about how we can use the change of paradigm in the world and how Ukraine can find itself in new realities. This is not easy, but this is something that we need to work on because if we go deeper into internal inclusion and we will be thinking only about how can we survive on our own, this is something that had to be thought about in 2022, I must say, but wasn't it too late in 2022? Well, it wasn't too late because we didn't have any grounds to think that detailed before that. In 2022, we had to think about how do we live without external help, and as we got this help, this helping shoulder from our partners. Now all of these shocks, they need to be distributed over time. And if we at some point come to dependence and counting on us own. It has to be midterm perspective because in the short term this is a problem, and I don't even want to. Of course, there's a set of tools, but once again, I would like us not to use it because the practice showed of discussions of tax laws. This is an unpleasant notion, not only in Ukraine, and I'm following the work of my colleagues from the Great Britain, Italy, Germany, and these discussions they end up with removing ministers because if the community is not ready or the parliament is not ready to take in this tough measures, and it's gonna really have even these consequences as a resignation of ministries, and that's why we need to be rational when it gets to those initiatives. And I will tell you, this is the hardest exercise that has been there for the time of martial law. It's easier to have communication with the external environment rather than communicating these what one might think are obvious things. You might think that, but it's not that really obvious because there are a lot of other questions arise that don't have short-term answers. For example, where's the efficient efficient help and reforms that fight corruption, and this is all good, but this is something that requires time, and we need the resource right now. We will find a way. In any case, we don't have scenarios where we cannot find a way, and including the interaction with the national bank. I think the the solution is going to be always pragmatic and benefiting the interest of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. But when it comes to the very complicated discussion, doesn't it seem to you that it was complicated because in our society people still do not understand clearly why one half should pay taxes and another half shouldn't pay taxes? And doesn't it seem to you that perhaps in this very context it would be really nice to restore the justice to make sure that everyone at least would be paying taxes, and then gradually one can increase this very benchmark? Then I think everyone will be talking, okay, a state needs money, okay, let's just chip in and that's it. But otherwise, one part that pays taxes feels themselves as if they are fooled that they continue to pay taxes, while others stay under the same conditions, continue not to pay the taxes. And I clearly get it that right now we have this reform and we will have reloading of this reform. But can you articulate this one? Because most likely this will have the consequences of the declining of the shadowing economy and to restore some kind of equality in terms of the rules of the game. Well, that's a very good question, by the way. You know, every time when we talk to business, it's not a pleasant thing, but we have to go through this thing. But we estimate the that part of taxes, what kind of taxes should be paid by this or that businesses. This is the objective reality. We can assess each subject of household activities according to his or her input into tax paying. Within a small exception, the majority of the households find this or that way of minimization of tax paying. And you addressed me a question, Serhiy, like, Serhiy, find a way out to fight with the shadow. But shadow is not even here. Shadow is next to us. One has to look at and ask a question. Do we clearly understand? Do we understand it enough, the just full payment of taxes? Are we ready to pay the wages in a just full way? Or do we pay the minimal wages? And other questions that pop up. And unfortunately, they demonstrate that we are still weak when it comes to this kind of discussions. Because if only this discussion would be honest, I think that we will be able to find a mutual solution and way out. But here, there should be opening from and honesty from both sides. Not only a state should tell that, okay, we are ready to see our inefficiency, but business also has to be able to speak up to tell that, yes, we have a possibility to pay equally and in a justful way. Well, that's very indeed justful words and really hard to combat them and to discuss anything about that. But in our society, I mean, in the society of EBA, it seems to me that if not everyone, but at least definitely the majority, are not omitting of paying the taxes, at least when it comes to wages. As I know, within hundreds of our companies, they pay the wages, but it's not kind of accusation. Yeah, I clearly get it. But my idea is that other companies feel themselves also in a very unjust situation. And over here, there's perhaps a very mutual question. What do we all have mutually do in order, by saying us, I mean those who stand on the ground of justice, to be able to receive the success, to be able to receive our objectives, so that even the Ministry of Finances would be performing better in terms of the collecting the taxes. But on the other side, for us to understand that we are not the only ones who pay the taxes. What can one do in this regards? What are we still lacking? Well, on a much less scale, we would like to address to, I would like for us to address to criminal procedural codex, because it's not about that. Mostly, it's about very wise approaches to the estimation of the of the business activities. This has to be intellectually, primarily intellectual work from the point of view of how can we make it in such a way that we will not have any kind of gaps in terms of the added value taxes. How can we avoid the gray import? These all are very well-known stories that are not done by small, insufficient businesses. These are criminally created structures and entities. They are not criminal in their sense, but as a matter of fact, they are. And the intellectual task over here is to make it all impossible. Then to do the corresponding changes into legislation and simply to cut these schemes. So primarily this has to do with intellectual process. We're not talking about usage of force on business and force methods on business. We also talk about identification of this kind of schemes and minimizing it or closing it completely. Well, your words was its way in gold. Yeah, but now we just don't have this kind of capacity. When it comes to capacity, it leaves much to be desired. Why? Because there's too many questions, not only from our side, but from the other sides. The world is leaning towards simple solutions, and these solutions are very, very complex. It's like we tell, okay, let's do it, but it's really complicated to do that. I'm honestly telling you, we are indeed lacking the support because this is a pretty intellectually complex work. And in order to engage the people who are ready to do this work, one has to actively be looking for these people who are ready to take this task and fulfill these tasks. Well, Mr. Andrei, as I take it, wanted to put in some kind of remark. Yeah, just I would like to allow myself to comment on a couple of things on what he told. So usually as the head of the National Bank of Ukraine, they don't comment the kind of fiscal questions. But in this very regards, I'd like to support the government on behalf of the National Bank in order to look for systematic decision. And this systematic solution was written down in the National Strategy of Income. It's not just a random and all of a sudden document. When it comes to those structural reforms and changes that Ukrainian teams are working together with the international IMF, if you want to find out what we will be doing, what Sergei and government will be doing in this regards, and what Parliament is supposed to do, open up this very document and look. Also, I would like to mention a couple of results that perhaps will demonstrate that everything is not that much bad. Unfortunately, we don't have, say, a kind of wonder medicine or wonder medicine that we will drink, and next day we will become the taxpayers. Or if we drink the second one, we will stop in kind of optimizing different things. If we talk about bank system, it works in the wide field. And yes, indeed, we feel those consequences you are not tell us about, because it's the only sector of Ukrainian economy that pays 50% of wage of income taxes, and to who the percentage absence is being acted to without any limits. And that's also about So this is very matters have been done repetitively. We clearly get it what we are talking about. National Bank initiated this and then publicly acknowledged the increase in the interest rate for the financial companies because we see these tax risks and we think it is not acceptable. Again, gambling back in 2021, the whole gambling gave into state budget a little bit more than 200 million as taxes. Is it 2023, after we started to work in terms of the financial monitoring and when we started to cooperate with the Ministry of Finances and State Fiscal Service, Bureau of Economic Security, gambling provided 12 billions. Currently, it seems to me it's more than 14. So de-shadowing, okay, go ahead. That is why we all have to be very much responsible and honest and to understand indeed that this is a path we have already taken. I can definitely tell you what kind of uneasy job has been done in terms of reforms the Bureau of Economic Security and the Customs Service. This process started, but correspondingly the legislational background and reasoning already exists, and these are the part of structural reforms within our financial cooperation with IMF. So we have gone through 5 hearings of this program. Ukraine has never come so much deeply in terms of the cooperation with IMF. Now, these very days, the IMF mission is working in Ukraine that is dealing with the analysis and preparation up to the 4th revision and hearings. That's not an easy task. But again, during these 2 years, it has never been easy. But all this comes to the idea of structural changes, justice, security, customs, monetary policy, de-shadowing, all these things, despite war, are being implemented. And not only macro-financial stability is being reinforced by Ukraine while fulfilling all its obligations. If we would not be doing that, this resultative 5th revision wouldn't be even occurring. The 3rd one, the 4th one. It means that Ukraine is fulfilling its obligation. And this gives us a reason to talk with our back straight, with our international partners and tell them, hey, we did our part of obligations. And they clearly understand that this is something that allows us, that packages of financial support that holds us now afloat. That is why we always want to have more, and this is the correct thing to do. And we have to demand more. But sometimes we have to look at all these from the correct point of view that a lot of things have been done, but a lot of things will be done. But we are already on this path. Thank you. That's very justful, Mr. Andrei. And indeed, it seems to me that business is estimated very high what already has been done. And the fact that we already have macro-financial stability, it's very responsible from the side of the state. And it's really hard to keep this all afloat. We understand it. That is why to overestimate your role in this context is not possible. The question about the customs service. And I would like to come back, Mr. Sergey, to customs service. How do you think next year, is it real and feasible to have efficiently working institutions? I mean, reloaded institutions or not? Or one still has to wait a little bit? Simply for us to have some kind of point to navigate at. Well, when it comes to navigation and landmarks, take into account the fact that the period of electing of the new head should be done within the first half a year. During the first half a year, I hope that the newly elected head will form a team, the team that will be able to demonstrate some results by the end of the 2025. And this is, I would say, feasible plan that we have right now. But again, this is a process that is really and really complicated. It doesn't mean that everything is already done. No, it's just the beginning. And I'd like for the focus of attention to customs service will not be declining. Because to accept a law and to reload the customs service, it just means to give a political start to this process. But indeed, to do the political reloading, that's a much bigger step. Well, that's true. Nobody can. Well, I'm not scaring you off, but I think that businesses has already showed it from their side, at least the transparent business, and I think that even a state managed to do that and managed to do it in a very proper way. And when it comes to financial sphere, and when it comes to customs service and justice and equal game rules, I think that we'll still have something to work upon. And here I'd like to support Andrew's words in this regards. Let us move forward, and I'd like to ask Ms. Inga, how does the situation with our financial sector look like? How do you feel as a MasterCard, the development of the situation? What kind of landmarks can you provide for the next year? And is it possible for you to estimate how do you think does this kind of amount of shadows in our country became less, or is it possible or impossible to do that? Can you just comment on this one? Thank you, Anna, on this question. At first, let me ask to start with the words of gratitude from my team to you, to the board, to the whole team of your association for what you do. We indeed cherish it so much, and again, our congrats on the 25th anniversary.
Мені здається, про фінансову індустрію дуже
that when it comes to financial industry, it has already been articulated in a very proper way by Andriy. I just add a couple of numbers and see you and tell you what's going on in the payable industry. Because there is many questions coming in terms of did something change? What kind of trends are there? I'd like to emphasize that truth be told, we all have very sustainable habits that have been formulated before the war. During the war times and war years, I can't say that there are new trends appearing, but I'd like to tell that all trends that existed, they became deeper. And what I'd like to emphasize primarily, and over here I will jump on the statistics of the National Bank, 9 out of 10 operations currently are not done in a cash area. Is 89% of those. If we talk about non-cash transactions, if we look at the statistics of MasterCards, the 98% in the trade outlets, right now these are the non-contact transactions. Our study shows that 68% of Ukrainians find the online magazines where one can pay with the cards. It means that people do not like it to pay with cash. Truth be told, it's a good sign. That again boils down to the idea that businesses still need to come out of the shadow. If you want to reach new markets, if you want to trade online, you have to know and to be capable and to provide the ability of non-cash transactions. Right now, 80% of responders, we did the poll, that's the SME representatives, they tell that they accept non-cash transactions and more than 50% of their income is being formed due to the non-cash transactions. And I think that's another answer to your question. That is why the habits are being formed. We use non-cash transitions and payable methods. We love this kind of non-contact methods, and also we love the NFC technology. I think that you all use Google Pay and other kind of payments. And currently, our statistics shows 66% of all transactions in the trading outlets is being done by NFC transactions. And even now, during war times, Ukraine remains in the top 10 countries of the world, according to our statistics, in terms of the numbers of NFT transactions. Our neighbors in these statistics are Australia, USA, Great Britain. That is why, again, I'd like to tell you all, we are so much developed technological country. That's why we have to be more leaning towards even more transparent technologies. And what we talked about panel discussions, it should not be the efforts of only one organizations and one payable system. A huge thanks to everyone who together with us formulate this very habit and the non-cash behavior of Ukrainians. I think that that's our common input into the development of a stable, sustainable, transparent economy of our country. Thank you. Thank you, Inga. Also, I would like to ask Alexander, with who it seems to me weekly we have been seeing each other on different kind of panels. And it's like our tours all over Europe, while emphasizing what kind of situation we have in Ukraine and what we have to expect in 2025. But again, I would like to repeat myself and ask my questions over here in order to say our audience to mention this. What is good there in the financial systems and what our landmarks for the 2025 are? Raiffeisen is one of the kind of backbones of bank system, and as a matter of fact, is the biggest banks out of all private banks in Ukraine. And correspondingly, the behavior of Raiffeisen obviously impacts the situation in the financial sphere. So, what do you, Alexander, think from the point of view of the future, ceasefire, and so on? Thank you, Senia. Thank you, Anna. So first, it's easy to talk about after the head of the National Bank and the Minister of Finances, because everything has already been said. Because the representative of NBU clearly characterized the financial sphere, and I can definitely tell you this is a stable financial system. It's not a part of the problem in Ukraine. I think, on the contrary, it's one of the most sustainable and stable sectors of economy that is the most trained and the most ready for EU accession. When we were implementing the European roadmap, financial and bank systems will be the first ones will be there under the robust guidance of National Bank of Ukraine. As the problem of bank system in Ukraine is that it is small. It is simply small. If you take the size of the system, the first 60% of the working credit portfolio and another 15% are the lowest indicators in any country that you can look for. It is simply small. And hopefully, luckily, after 2014 and 15, the correct job was done. And for 10 years, the National Bank and the Ministry were doing the correct policy in order to achieve the stability of bank system. It is clear, it is transparent, it becomes one of the biggest taxpayers in the country, and at some point with at the respective payment. But we also pay taxes, but we at the same time are small. That is why the risks that I see are primarily not in the year 2025, but in what Ministry of Finances thought in the middle-term perspective, when the war will be over, and the war will be over. And we talked lots of scenarios about what kind of ceasefire we will have in 2025, but the war will be over, and then somebody will have to rebuild the country. So bank system is too small to actively participate in the reconstruction. We are so much well capitalized now, and great thanks for that. But if we will be put taxes like 50% per year, we will not have enough capital to support the real reconstruction of the country. And I think that this problem will not start in 2025. Perhaps we can see that in 2026, but definitely in 2027. That's the problem. Where can we find and look for capital? And how can we grow? And the bank system can grow as a financial mediator can only then when the economy becomes transparent. The reason why we are so small in size is that the big amount of economy is in the shadow. And bank system cannot work with this. It's either the money under the mattresses in the envelopes, we cannot work from not from the point of view of financial monitoring, not from the point of view of crediting. So that's exactly that very discussion that happened today, where the Minister of National Bank of Ukraine and Minister of Finances very clearly have articulated our main topics, precisely to increase the tax base and structural reform. I think that this is the most critical question for Ukraine and for the bank system precisely, because by now, and Ministry has emphasized this, 2025 is not under the question. We have enough international financial assistance, but when international financial assistance is the same as the whole budget of Ukraine, and it's obvious when after the end of the war, the assistance will be gradually declining. The question over here is, by what means our country, will be capable of balancing its deficit and budget, if not like liquidate this kind of, but to reduce it. And by what means we will be able to balance the outside payability? That's the question. And without those things that the National Bank leader and the Minister of Finances told, without structurized solution of these things, I'm not sure how this will be happening. And the minister is correct in when he tells about that these kind of things, they take time. And we all know it. The earlier you start, the earlier results you will have. It means that already now somebody has to launch this process, and bank system can assist with that. And in this very regards, we see that how people wanna avoid the tax paying by means of separating the business, the engagement of physical entrepreneurs, and we can see that. That is why we, and together with the Raiffeisen, we are welcoming the initiatives of the National Bank of Ukraine. I know that the Ministry of Finances support this because we know that these things should be put on hold and stopped. And I'm pretty sure that the bank system will always be stable. It will support, and I'd like to add that very trend that we saw during war times very actively, that the bank system becomes more and more energy independent at the expense of such as power banking projects, or within some kind of limits, we become more and more energy independent, and that's critically important for the 24/7 activities. And secondary, that's the migration into the cloud, when the whole bank system has proved that back in 2022, the key banks did that or still do that, and this will become a trend. That's why this operational stability will be sustained, I'm pretty sure, with all course of actions, and we will still be able to provide a big amount of support in 2025. And for the first time this year, we see the structural overgrowth of credits above deposits, and that's a sustainable trend. We have capital to support this in the 2025. The question lies down in the sphere of the middle term and how to find the capital for the reconstruction. Well, I think that we're gonna be fine. We will be able to manage that. And traditionally, MasterCard and Raiffeisen Bank as the sponsors of the national assemblies, and we both see that MasterCard and Raiffeisen Bank are working hand in hand pretty well. And I think that financially, we will be able to support Ukraine, including Ukraine, but still, thanks for these milestones. And I hope that the minister has heard us, because indeed, the business is so much willing to help. And I mean that business that has been in EBA. And we will always be able to give our shoulder for you to lean on. But in addition to that, we are ready to provide our assistance with reforms and the increase of taxes. It just seems to me that another path should be done here from the side of the state.
Я розумію, там Боб хотів прийти, але він зараз в шелтері.
You understood that Bob wanted to join, but he's in shelter now due to air raid alert. He couldn't leave. So sorry. But Elena, maybe you want to add something? Yeah. Unfortunately, no sound. Unfortunately, still no sound. Could you help Miss Elena, please? So overall amount of the financing from the World Bank from the beginning of the war is $50 billion. And really, Mr. Serhiy 2 days ago, yesterday or the day before yesterday, he signed 138 billion of program peace. And it's important not only that the World Bank is giving money, but it's giving money for the support of the budget and macroeconomic stability. But it's more important to have something that my colleagues from the World Bank do when it gets to support of reforms with their knowledge and tools. And we do that together in many sectors. The latest initiative, it was the initiative of the president of Ukraine when he invited the president of the World Bank in order to help with the reform of residential construction. This is a very complex one, but very much needed, because what is happening in that sector, we will not be able to do that in Europe. So this has to be started now, and this has to be done together. And except for the project that IFC, the one I represent, and our mandate is to develop private sector, not only through personal investment, but also what we do with banks, because they don't need it right now, but they need to go to grow their portfolio, and for that we use this tool as a risk shared facility. And this is a very good tool for Ukrainian banking sector, and we do still a lot when it gets to bringing the private sector, not only through our financing, but also when we structure PPP and when we continue working on Black Sea and Dunai. A lot of things are being done, and also our colleagues, they are unfortunately not here. We have the office in Hayat that is working the World Bank and FC, and we also have colleagues that are here that have done 2 projects, but unfortunately this is a tool that is only possible for foreign investors, but we have a lot of colleagues in this audience. But if you're interested to work with me, then you can also do this through the World Bank. You can reach that. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, friends, do you want to say a few words? Well, on this good note, let's maybe wrap it up. Okay, well, I think the most important part that we did have a dialogue, and we hope that we heard each other. But really, the goal was not into just load with all the questions and to really figure all of them out. But it was to highlight how deeply we respect transparent business, and so we can understand what questions we have, what messages we have towards you, what expectations, and we understood also, even though we understand you, we hear you, and really we understand that it's very hard. We wouldn't want to be in your place, and we want to wish everyone resilience to the government, to the business, and international partners. So thank you for this microfinancial panel. We have another 2 components of this evening. Thank you. We will continue the discussion.
Дякую. Так, друзі. Фінансова панель – це добре.
So financial panel is good, and having finances is great, but we also need to eat. And when it gets to food, I would like to invite Mr. Minister of Agrarian Policy, Vitaly Koval, please. I just want to invite you to the stage to see how does agriculture feel an agrarian sector. Thank you, first of all, for joining. And it's 25 years today. That's why I'm taking congratulations from everyone on behalf of everyone. And actually, the question, apart from that, but seriously, how do we manage when it gets to military situation? What is the impact on agrarian sector, and what is the impact from business, and how also the logistics is going to be working, the logistic corridor, because also important for agrarians. So if you can give us a little information as for now, what has been done, what on this position, and what are the prospects for the future. Thank you. Colleagues, hello. First of all, I want to congratulate you on this 25 years, because this is quite a serious Rubicon, and it's only going to be better, stronger, and more productive. You're doing a great job. For these 2 months, it's been our 3rd meeting, and every time it's leaving this aftertaste for thoughts and tasks, because EBA knows how to leave ministers with tasks, and this is a positive signal, because this shows interaction of cabinet of ministers, all the branches of the government with respective associations, and this is important. Dear friends, it's really not an easy year, but there's some positive aspect of it, and it lays within the following: that first of all, we need to open Ukrainian grain corridor, and we came back to almost historical indicators of export through sea. It's almost 80 5% of our production that is going through the ports of Odessa. Compared to 2022, it's easier for agrarians of Ukraine when it gets through logistics and it doesn't eat up the margin for them so much. And we all know that it was divided with intermediate with other companies, and it was quite a lot of margin going into sharing this to get transport. And now we know that agro sector rebuilt it, rebuilt it, and started to already sowing time, and we hope that next year is going to be good. But it has to be in added value as well, not only GDP. And we need to understand this because right now we're still on the path towards industrial country when it gets to agriculture, because we are still right now the country that is mostly operating with commodities, and that's a challenge. And the preparation and going through all your integrational process is very important to go without any losses to national interest, because it's very easy to adopt, to just copy paste of European acquis and lose the potential, the agro potential within the country. So we need to be very balanced and reasonable when we approach this. So not at any cost, of course not. We had some examples of those countries that were going through integrational processes, Euro integration at any cost. It's not going to happen like this in Ukraine. And for this, we need interaction, especially when it gets to fighting disinformation. Alexander said very good words, that Ukrainian banking sector is stable, it's very flexible, but small. And the first myth that we need to fight, that all the countries in Europe, we are getting this picture drawn as a big uncontrolled mass of grain production. Ukraine is a super agriculture. In reality, this is a myth, and we need to move away from it and go to this picture that Ukraine is a grant of food security that can be very clearly prognosed for the partners. And this nuance about finding this misinformation using numbers. When we talk about agro export, yes, it's 60% from GDP, but in foreign currency. But this is only $22 billion, and we understand that for European market, even it's a small number. So we need to be very careful, and we need to understand that agricultural sector, it's about sustainability and cultural, social elements, and almost 400 million of population that is somehow related to agricultural sector. This is jobs and some related industries. So this is about stability of the country, not only about the grain, but also this is the base for the next process of processing, and it could be an added potential, and this processing could be added value, because many times we were talking about this when the average export price for a ton of our production, the $309 that we had last year, this is not a big indicator, and we have this challenge set for us to fall over $1,000 as the average price for agricultural export. So we export the product of processing, and we have a lot of efforts into this, and state and governmental programs 579, for example, and programs for compensation for the equipment, 20% also that was sent to this. Well, including the 25 years, it's an important benchmark, milestone, and we have the vision in this as well, and that's what we're talking about today. If you look into 25 years into the future, how would you describe and imagine agrarian sector of Ukraine? 2 words? You can use 3. Everything is very good.
Візійно.
So, talking about vision, this is a good question. Whether today, European Union is number 4 in agricultural export in the world. In Ukraine, with Ukraine, it becomes the top second. As the minister, I would really like to be part of the story of success of the country in transition from agrarian to agro-industrial scale. And it's very important for the opportunities that is provided by Ukrainian soil to be used for Ukrainian people, that in fact we could grow, process, sell, and all of this within a sustainable circular economy for the future generation, 25, 50 years, we could pass on the resource in better state than we have it. So gradual development of the industry, not by the future generations, but in this sustainable format. So it's correct economic approach to those limited resources that we have. And Ukraine has to be the leader of technology and innovation in agricultural sector in the world. Even today, we're one of, but we have to become the first one. If we look at certain discrepancies when it gets to EU and Ukraine, when we talk about agrarian sector, in your phrase that we will be joining, but not at any cost. How do you believe this timeline can look like? So, how long will we need to get to this Rubicon of membership in the EU, including the integration of agricultural sector under the conditions that we want? I want you to help me to remind you those truth, as they have first rejection, then acceptance, first they fear us, they don't really take us good. So we need to go through this process, this periods, and through correct numbers, real analytics, who we are for European Union, they have to accept us. And we need to remove those reservations that are in the European Union as for those sensitive groups of goods that we could replace, not at the expense of European manufacturer, but at the expense of historical import. For example, if we talk about sugar, tons of sugar, and if we take our share of exports to Europe and compare in this competition with external supplier, and it's about any sensitive goods as corn, the same cereals as sugar. And first, we need to win this competition with external supplier, then strengthen European Union from the point of view of food security as neighbors. Because, for example, this latest crisis on the butter market has shown that the manufacturer number 1, New Zealand, can cover everything in 1.5 to 2 months because the container deliveries are there. But Ukraine can fix it in 2-3 days because the speed of logistics is faster. We're closer. And when European Union will realize that with us we're stronger, we're not a threat, we're the possibility, and then when they realize that Ukraine is a reliable shoulder to lay on, and then our operation will fly. And that's why I invite everyone wherever you go, on conferences, bilateral meetings, talk about this. We're an opportunity, not a threat. And by those truthful messages, we need to really get to European Union. This is important. And your question about whether there is Ukrainian fish in the restaurants, we are always asking. Did you go to Chornomorets? Was it you? Okay, thank you, Vitaly. Thank you very much. I understand that you cannot really talk about everything right away, and it hasn't been that long you're in this position. And I want to say thank you that it's been our third meeting at least in this short term where you have become the Minister of agrarian policy and food of Ukraine, and I want to say thank you because it's not an easy part of the work when it gets to European integration, but just know that we're with you. Thank you, thank you. Glory to Ukraine, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. So, colleagues, we also have a very, very, very important but small panel. It is about defense and strategic industries, because this is something that we believe, this is something that allows us meeting today during air raid alerts and having these discussions. And we have our next speakers gathered, and I'm looking into Rustem is coming, right? He has to be here soon. I want to invite to the stage Mr. Herman Smetanin, who is the Minister of Strategic Industries of Ukraine. Please, thank you for coming in.
Alexander Kamyshin,
Alexander Kamyshin, who is the advisor to the President of Ukraine on strategic industries.
Да, і ми чекаємо пана
Рустема. We are also expecting Mr. Rustem Umerov, who is the Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Now I hope that he will appear. What?
He is here. I know that he is here. He is waiting. But it would be also very good if you can bring also other colleagues from the hall actually to join our discussion. Тому що насправді важливі тематики, які ми будемо піднімати.
Because very important topics that we're going to be raising, and actually everything that is about investment, you want it, you don't want it, but it's still going to be ending up with security, with the opportunity of our defense to protect all of us. I'm gonna start fireworks. Hello, Mr. Rustem.
Дякую. Тепер наша панель укомплектована на сьогодні.
Our panel is full.
Дякую. Да, ну що ж таке? Дякую, по-перше, за те. Я просто, ви пропустили, пан Рустем, якби слова подяки, насправді.
Thank you. You missed the introduction and the words of appreciation. I believe that the armed forces of Ukraine make it possible that we can meet A in Kiev, B that we can be having discussions even during air raid alerts. Some of our speakers, they could not leave and come to us because under the protocol they have to be in the shelter, but everyone else, you can see it's the full audience, and we are continuing having the discussion. So I want to say thank you to the armed forces of Ukraine, everyone who's serving in the armed forces to make it possible. Thank you for the support. We, of course, are so strong, but it wouldn't be possible without you, without partners. And I wanted to say thank you once again, everyone in the Pixel, for your support. Thank you. How is it going? How are we doing? How would you describe the situation? Well, they always joke that the situation is hard but controlled. We continue with the defense operations, and we continue training, we continue preparing, and military equipment and weapon we get through international military help, and we are working with this, and we have the ministry from TechProm, and we are prioritizing investment into weapons, and we believe that we can overcome all the challenges and get ready for 2025. When it gets to international partners, of course, we had some changes, and we understand that it can be potentially impacting the what we get. And we have plan B, and we understand that probably our own means is not enough and it's going to be support, but I'm not the Ministry of Defense, so I cannot know more than you. Can you please comment? Can you give us some signal as for what should we expect? And then the second aspect of this, we understand that at least in business, we discuss about the opportunity about a ceasefire next year. What do you think about this?
Well, just now I finished a phone call with the Ministry of Defense of US Lloyd Austin. For us, Rammstein format is extremely important. It is done every month, online and offline, and we want for this format to continue. That's our international military support. It's our possibility to meet the partners and the possibility to exchange our opinions and to receive military vehicle pieces, finances, financial assistance, and we want this all to continue. Over here, one needs your support, your engagement, so that to make sure that this format will be on, up and running. We talked about this with Lloyd Austin. We also asked them to discuss this with the future new Minister of Defense, and I will also be sending a letter that for us is important. I think that those talks that the president of Ukraine had with somebody, they went well, and this very principle has to remain there. We have to be powerful, and in order to be powerful, one has to continue supporting Ukraine. We see that right now we will also prepare, and also we got familiarized the President Trump with our plans, victory plans. That is why I hope that there will be support and there will be continuation of the support in the future. But also would like to emphasize that with each European partner, we are also discussing and have been discussing this, and by the end of this year, we will sum up what was done by the year in the year 2024, and we will prioritize the year 2025. We already have bilateral security agreements. We have Rammstein format. The Wiesbaden is working with us, the one that will be reformatting under the auspices of NATO. And we have another new formats coming that will allow us to fund those lines of work, to formulate new brigades, to form new brigade, or to form new technological lines of work. All right, the question I have is not quite tactical, but nevertheless, perhaps quite complicated one, because on and off, there are this kind of opinions heard that, okay, Ukraine is already exhausted, the partners are already exhausted. You need ceasefire or the stoppage of war. But at the same time, there are these opinions that this war can continue with this or that intensity for a long time. Or there are another opinions regarding the following, that if Ukraine, God forbid, loses war, then it means the beginning of the Third World War. Can you exchange your opinions on this regard to the Minister of Defense, or is it not possible to? Well, our partners always ask us these questions in the other format, saying what kind of model of the armed forces, of the defense forces will you have if the war stops? It's called future force in their language, and we always explain them that if we will be in NATO, we will have this amount of defense and assets. We will be doing the collective measures mission on this flank or that flank. If we do the modeling, that if we will be still approaching NATO, or while we will be the members of NATO, we will need these or that assets. So the continuation of the support of Rammstein format of, or even maybe more support. That's the way how they ask us these questions. On the other side, we also always have these strategical objectives and tasks that we fulfill, meaning stabilizational operations that we do, defensive operations that we do. We want to achieve those borders that we have in our plan. Our plan is to be a modern NATO country in order to achieve those borders as we identify as internationally recognized borders. In order to do that, we need the assets and the support of international partners. It's either the option A, we are a part of NATO and we receive collective security, and the collective security for us is much more secure, or B, plan B, we are provided assistance, and by means of this assistance and assets, we achieve our goals and objectives that right now we are setting forward, meaning to achieve those internationally recognized borders. Well, you see those partners and you tell this all from the point of view. You look at all this from the positive point of view. I ask you the question from that point of view, that there is still this element of risk, and even people from business circles talk about, and especially abroad. In Ukrainian business, there is this opinion that yes, this ceasefire will perhaps happen, but also there is this opinion inside the country that potentially it can be restored. But again, this might be the question to Herman and Alexander about the readiness of the strategical sectors. But nevertheless, a question to you as to the head of the Minister of Defense. How do you think? Will we have enough strength? And I ask this in that context that we are lacking people in business and everywhere. Every time we hear that in the armies we don't have enough amount of personnel. How, with all these kind of challenges that we have, we can mediate and lower down these risks? Well, each company has its own tasks and objective, and they know that we have to achieve this kind of heights or to do this or that. Or on the contrary, you do everything in order to achieve your goal. I'm not from Verkhovna Rada. I'm in the completely another field of work. I am that very ministry that uses the defense forces and coordinates them during war times. When it comes to this, I am following my tasks and my objectives. I see that there are some kind of questions of society, there are some kind of questions from business community, yes. But my task, my main task, is to defend my country, to increase the ability to defend of this country. That is why in these very businesses, I only see what I need in order to fulfill these objectives and tasks. I'm not obeying this, I'm not disobeying this, I'm not omitting these questions. I'm telling that if Verkhovna Rada, Diploma Corps, or politicians or society will think that they will have to resort to us because we are in that very business, if we politicize the military component, that will be, we will be stepping away from our democratical principles. I'm telling you, there are some complex questions, and our objective is always to work with those partners in order to overcome those complexities and to do the reasoning that with these very assets we will be able to achieve this and that goals. Meaning that A, there is Verkhovna Rada, and B, another ministries. And on the other side, all the complexity that I see, we can win. And for that, we have a plan. It is the plan of on operational level and strategical level is being worked through together with the partners, and partners support this. The question to us right now is, will we be able to organize that very support that we had for the last 2.5 years? And this question is the main question, and we all have to work upon this for the partners to provide our assistance to us. Okay, but can you comment the policy on mobilization? What kind of plans are there? Because again, business needs some kind of landmarks, and you clearly understand it while being a person from business circles too. And take into account the idea that the deficit of staff is a key problem for the majority of people who are present in this hall, and not only in this hall. We understand that the question of kind of reservations and bookings, they are very sharp this day, but we clearly understand that the question of mobilization is very sharp for the country too. So what should we as businesses expect by the end of the next year and this year? Well, the question that we coordinate together with the Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Digital Transformation, and the Cabinet of Ministers, is the following. We provide recommendations how many people we need in order to hold the lines, in order to have the strategical reserve, operational reserves, and we are trying to change this paradigm. As I have already mentioned before that, to make sure that this kind of military service would be an honor and not how the society takes it, saying this bossification, military army recruiters so bad, and so on. So these are the tasks that we have, and it's very problematic question that we have, and we are trying to change the approaches and principles today. So a new resolution was accepted in order to make sure that this transition between units will be simplified, and also we will modernize the training methodology for the next year in order to hold the lines, in order all the objectives and tasks that are mentioned in the military strategy, we have to continue mobilization. However, this very summer, we, together with our colleagues from Cabinet of Ministers, have been working upon the following, that we heard that economy requires reservations and bookings of people from military service. And Cabinet of Ministers have passed some resolutions, have done some actions, and on our side, we have reserved some amount of people, but we still have to continue doing mobilization. That is why we will always be open in order to work with different associations, and we kindly ask you all to resort to us and to comment on how we can help you, because from our side, we as a military component, we can only tell about our tasks and objectives, but we also here, as I have already mentioned this during the summertime, we already helped to create this national reserve. But if you need more people to be reserved, then come to us, let us sit behind the table, and we will be able to talk. Okay, that's a very pretty good news, and thanks so much for that, because business will definitely estimate this from a correct point of view, and because for business, it's one of the most sharpest and burning questions as for everyone else, and we will be indeed happy to establish this kind of dialogue, because we need transparency and the ability to forecast our actions, both for you and for us, meaning that we have to understand what kind of staff potential we can count on. That is why very often I hear that from businesses that if not 50%, but at least 40%, at least those who are eligible for mobilization, booking and reservation. And over here, there should be also the clean and transparent state work, because very often we hear those signals saying that SBU and other law enforcement come to companies and simply by means of force ask the list of people who work there and behave not in a very proper way. And that's very awful element that the businesses see. And it seems to me that this very discussion between you and the representatives of businesses is we all are mature enough to have it. And the business will be ready to offer its proposals, or at least the vision, how one can do that. If you will have this possibility to do it within the next couple of days, we will be the first ones to call you. As I have already mentioned, before this time, the Ministry of Economy and Ministry of Digital Transformation resorted to us. We did this intersectoral group that provides us recommendations about who to book and who to reserve, and we subscribe to this according to all the parameters and principles. I have never heard about our ministry blocking something. Sometimes businesses come to me and ask me like, hey, we provided all the documents and it wasn't even signed. And I asked my colleague who is responsible for mobilization and booking the reservation in order not to lose time. We want to work with businesses. Us as a ministry are ready together with other ministries to provide contracts to businesses for you to do our defensive orders and help us not only in terms of manufacturing the weapon systems, but also in terms of bank transitions and law guidances and so on. We want to talk to you. That is why if there is this proposal, I'm ready to give my positive feedback on it and to organize such a meeting. Okay, if you still will be this weekend in here, why not? That's a very promising news, I would say, and this very proposal, we will definitely be able to jump on it. So the question to Herman Smetanin, what are your long-term, middle-term, and short-term strategical plans and ambitions about the defense sector? Well, currently, The main goal of our manufacturers are the provision of weapon systems and vehicle pieces for the needs of the armed forces, Ministry of Defense, National Guard, and other military units. Currently, on the territory of Ukraine, there is registered more than 800 companies that produce or manufacture weapon systems or vehicle pieces. A lot have been done during the full-fledged wartime. One of the recent updates is that the government has accepted the discount bookings, and the entities are supposed to receive the credits within 5% annual 5% interest rate for the 5 years in order to purchase different equipment, or 100 million hryvnias to put into the flow capital. And what is anticipated in the state budget are 54.5 billion hryvnias for purchase of the equipment for the state enterprises, to develop the ammunition branch, to develop the missiles branch and unmanned aerial vehicle systems. And also we launched a program called Iron Military Area that allows our manufacturers to do the quick testing of our vehicle pieces that are being designed, as well as to increase the fulfillment of needs of the Ministry of Defense. Okay, what have you already done, and how do you see the cooperation with businesses? Well, when it comes to cooperation with businesses, it's quite easy. The Ministry of Defense has the needs of the general staff that has been consolidated based on the results of the usage of these or that assets or weapon systems on the front line. These very needs are being given to other private manufacturers and as well as to the state sector. Then we do either the design of new products if by now we have absent the technical capacities, and if there are present the products that can fulfill the duties, or we do the manufacturing and uploading these products for the needs of the Ministry of Defense. But do you think that arms industry will be able to manage the challenges if, say, potentially there can be a decline in the amount of international assistance? Well, currently in Ukraine, the biggest war is going on since the times of the Second World War, and it has a very high intensity, and the needs that our defense forces have is not possible to be covered by none of the any kind of arms industry of any free country of the world, and even the Russian Federation that right now is leading this bloodshedding war is using its neighbors in order to use their capacities. That is why this war is of high intensity, and it requires the consolidation of our international partners, as well as the supply of those weapon systems that is needed right now by Ukrainian armed forces. Okay, message is taken. Thank you for the clear articulation of it. Alexander, now, what we have heard, is it possible for you to comment on this? And the second aspect of my question is, what you have already sent in the past, and as well as other colleagues of the defensive branch, you told that the problems are to ensure the rhythm of state orders and the problems of finances. How does these two questions move hand in hand? Well, I did a couple of notes for the separate panels, and since our ministers have to be politically correct, I will not be allowing this. You perhaps have listed all these kind of fears that I have, that the ministers have, and all the people in this hall, but you forgot to mention about those good things that we have. Let us all be honest. A year ago, when we were here in this very meeting, we were dreaming that we can reach by what we can producing, or what our partners will allow somewhere deep into Russian territory. This very week, we saw what happened there above Moscow. And this very week, you saw how our drone have fly to and hit a military ship in Caspian Sea. Let us be honest. When a year ago, when we were talking about drones reaching Caspian Sea, you can't believe that. Just raise your hand and be honest. That is why. Trust me, to learn what we are producing and to be able to control it. And these are the hundreds of items of manufacturing line. That's a big it's a big achievement of our defense forces. Because only FPV drones, we have more than 100 manufacturers of that. Just imagine when we are delivering this all to the front line. These guys at the front line have to take it, patch it together, and to launch it. That's why when we say that behind this all there is this kind of purchases, trainings, and utilization. When we talk about exhaust, we on the nine right now it's the 993rd day of war. Obviously, we all are tired, but when we look at the arms industry, when we come to our industry factories, just right now they're spreading their wings. Just right now we see what we are capable of, and our partners saw what we are capable of. Nothing can supersede the support of our partners because what they provide to us, they provide it to us completely free of charge without any need to return. In order to purchase what we produce, money is needed. Only by this year, the capacity of our arms industry is a little bit more than $20 billion. And what will be given to us is a little bit more than $8 billion. For the next year, we can do it for the 3.3 trillions of dollars. But in our budget project is 618 billions. This all includes petrol, uniforms, and so on, meaning that according to my estimations, we will have no more than $10 billion. And the capacity of the market itself is $30 billion. And we extremely will need the support of our partners. But let's be honest, if a year ago it seemed to us completely irreal to talk from somebody of our partners to fund the purchases from our arms industry and the donation to our defense forces, and we clearly remember that we celebrated the first contracts according to Danish model, so-called, when in July they placed a contract and already in September they received 18 Bogdans, and right now they are completely paid by Danish government. So now, according to this program, we have 535 million euros. There is American program for 800 million dollars and another programs that work in this line of work. And recently we were in Iceland for the meeting up of all Nord countries, and all those 5 countries approved stated the readiness to purchase all this according to Danish model. It seems to me that this very result of the mutual teamwork will provide us a chance to understand that we will always be dependent on the support of our partners, but we already start to produce and fund ourselves. Let us also be honest. Not only we come to our partners begging them, but we offer them some kind of value to their arms industry, values to their defense. And let us be honest, not that many people in Europe and NATO want to produce cheap and very well working, efficient assets. I haven't seen none European or nor American company that can produce dozens and hundreds thousands of cheap FPV drones. I didn't see companies that will be able to produce a drone that is launched for the long distances, or the drones that are hitting the ships, or those assets that we use at the front line, from anti-tank weapon systems to the very cheap ammunition. The Western world and arms industry world is not chasing these very cheap things. What is more comfortable for them is to produce highly sophisticated, high margin things. And while coming to NATO, we will bring our value, that we will be a complementary defense to them, not a competition. And we will be able to produce what their defense industry does not want to produce. So our value, what we can produce to bring to EU and to NATO, is very and very high. And our ministers are very well articulating all this while talking to our partners. And when Rustam is talking about the honor to serve, we have to clearly remember about the honor of this. Let us all be honest. How did they look at our arms industry 2 years ago? Timur over here today is a member of the advisory Rada Council of Oboronprom. If 2 years ago I would come to him and ask him, okay, maybe you can consider the chance of applying to the competition to this, but hey, I don't want to be associated with our arm industries.
Він дивиться на те, що виробляє наші оборонки, каже вау, тому що йому його партнери з Європи what we make in defense, and he says wow, because the partners from Europe, they call and they say, look, can we come and take a look at what you're making? Let's be honest, 2 years ago none of our foreign partners would be asking to look at our production. Are they ready to come and look or also invest the money? We have more than 10 European countries, companies that have the different form of something joint in Ukraine. Maybe it's either representatives or open joint manufacturing in different form. Only more than 10 of such companies, only 3 of such German companies. I even can tell you there's an example of a German company that in Ukraine they open such activity and they financing the recovery of German equipment for their money, and we're thankful for this. We'll be thankful forever, and I'm sure that there's going to be more of such notions as we saw, and despite challenges and exhaustion of our forces, and we will continue working more and more. We'll be showing what we're making. We're going to be showing Ukraine strong, and the defense is going to grow. Thank you. So the question to 3 of you, as for European integration and how this can impact the defense sector and strategic industries, most likely it's going to give some plus, of course, but can you comment from your side? And the second aspect to this, how would you see this industry of defense in 25 years? Well, we are 25 years, that's why I'm asking.
Тільки хочу, от нещодавно
I
спілкувався
want to just recently I was talking about what is
Сашою Германом постійно
defense investments, and with Sasha and German we constantly are in touch, and I'm very grateful because sometimes I'm saying something about them and they're saying something about me, but most of the time they're spending with you and I spend with the soldiers. And if we take this artillery 50%, drones, and it's 5 billion left, and how much of this we put in and our partners put in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, there was mentioned during the meeting a few days ago, defense investment was 17 billion, and in the US 54. How much from this year was the investment of our partners that came and rebuilt things? I cannot even talk in hundreds. It's not aid, it's investment, and we also have to be setting ambitious goals for us, whether we're doing our homework as well in order to attract investment in defense sector, because us, for example, as security and defense forces with the strategic ministry and Ministry of Digitalization, and we are financing the contracts in order for domestic manufacturer to make things for us. But what do we believe to be direct investments? What industry do we need? In order to hold the front, we believe $120+ billion is something that unfortunately we're using. And if in 25 years, if we want to say that we want to be the country of Big 7, Big 20, we want to really unfold this economy 10 times, 20 times, and then see if we're going to have this 100% of coverage, and if it's 120 today, and in 25 years, if we take a look at the current situation, they're going to be using up to 80% of their GDP, and if the war goes on for 10, 20 years, where they are going to be, because I also need to be looking at the enemy. It's Ministry of Defense, that's what they do. We need to be looking at the enemy, and in this case, we need to do our work. Direct investments, this is priority for business. You know our country, you work and you invest here, we can help you. In the form of contracts, long-term contracts, and we're working now in order to make 10 years contracts. Now it's 3 years. where we've been talking about this for the last weeks, 10 years. So to be frank, we need to make sure that defense industry is the key one, and for that we have software business that can also be helping of our security defense forces, and I think that we can sit down together and plan what is possible for the 10 years as a ministry and other ministries. What can we do for you to find partners and start investing? This is going to be changing, but we can support you. I believe that we should not, that this minimum program is 100 billion minimum and higher into defense. That's the industry that we need to have $100 million, right? Yes. As Alexander already said before, in this or other form, today we have already foreign companies working, more than 10. They are using not only their own capital into our this internal market, but also they are attracting funds from the government. So those countries that are financing the creation of these new manufacturing bases, and for this amount of time in this big war, we have gained a lot of technological breakthrough in our defense. And before full-scale invasion, our defense was not in the priority. We can even say that it was in a bad state, and we can say it was in decline. We should be open about this. And I think that after the end of the war, our victory, Ukrainian people and the government will be understanding that defense is the key industry of our economy in the next 25 years. It's only going to be growing, and after the end of war, it's a very big export potential. And if now they come, the different companies that come on the territory of Ukraine and they invest, and after the war, our companies, they will be in demand on the whole on the whole globe, and everyone is going to be interested in our technology. And we are giving the opportunity to the partners to invest on the territory of Ukraine, but they will, of course, want to invest into their territory. So the next 25 years is going to be of gathering the fruit of the work that we got within this short time of war. Can you raise your hands? Who knows someone who makes weapons and this attack and ammunition? Half of the people. Okay, I think we should start creating a committee in this regard in EBA. Yeah, but you see, it's not enough just to know someone. Trust me. I think half probably didn't raise their hands because it's in secret and they just didn't want to give it out. But now I think not only in schools and those garages, I think everywhere they make FPV drones. At least in those agricultural ones, I know they make that. And we believe that defense really became a strategic industry, and it's not that we chose it really. In my last previous life, I was working in agriculture and with harvest, and I was happy. And now we have to be here. And only Herman, he spent his professional life in this area, but we didn't choose, but the enemy came, and now we need to learn how to use the maximum out of it, how to export this at some point. And I believe that even sooner than 25 years, the export of defense will become our biggest export product, because we learn how to defend ourselves against someone who is calling themselves second army in the world. And here the agricultural just pointed their head down. But an expert of security, expert of defense, this can be our key idea, because we showed the whole world, and let's be honest, the world is becoming very dangerous and very volatile, and security is the key request that exists in the world right now. So these defensive forces with all the tech can become a key export product. And it would be nice to have a committee in EBA, to be honest, to help exporting this at some point. Yes, and we would really love that, and we invite defense companies also to join EBA. We will be happy to also advocate for their interest. It's just there's not enough for the committee, but we're always open. But to be serious, thank you, friends, for what you're doing, for highlighting the progress that we have already acquired in 1 year, 2 years, 3, and of course we have a long path before us of transformation and all that, but all that we have done already deserves respect. Your teams, our teams of people who are not in this audience even today, and I believe to all of us, fastest victory under our conditions. So for us to really bring back the peace, safety, and for us to be able to move around our country freely and be putting in capital in our country, and let the strategic industry, different industries, continue developing and promoting in the world and spreading out our technology that we learned by shedding by this bloodshed, but we will be managing to do everything possible to use it to the maximum. And thank you for invitation of continuation of our cooperation. We will do everything possible, and we want to wish a good evening to everyone. We have a very good food waiting for us, and I would really wish this very pleasant, not even that pleasant, but useful next 25 years, so everyone survives and becomes more successful. Thank you.
Завтра давай